and gentlemen, the show is about to begin.
Hello there, and welcome to the TruePopCulture7 Show. I'm your host, TruePop. Back here in 2024. I know I took some time off, well, a lot of time off without any shows, but you know, birthdays, Christmases, families, a lot of shenanigans happened. But now I'm back, and I'm humbled to be rejoined by.
Oh,
Casual
stop.
Opinions. No, it was great
Thanks for
chatting
having
with you
me.
last time. Oh no, you're always welcome, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Today for this show, we'll just be discussing 2023 in terms of movies, and as well as some other film releases. I think would be interesting to talk about because two of the movies you have seen, American Fiction and Iron Claw.
Okay.
Those two movies are like completely unavailable to me. I'm pretty sure Iron Claw comes out for me in February.
Oh, not till
American,
February. Wow. Okay.
yeah, and American. I keep forgetting it. I want to keep calling it American Society for some reason, but
Because we do
American
live
Fiction.
in a society over
Yes,
here.
yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
American Fiction. That doesn't come out for you for a while either.
I think it's also in. I mean, all the cinemas that it plays in are very far away, or
Okay. Yeah.
but once it gets like closer to the end of January, it seems like the cinemas get a little closer to actually playing it, and it's interesting because it had an interesting trailer, and I was like wondering, what's going on with this film? I suppose what's going on in here.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah,
I have seen both of them, and I'd be happy to talk to you about them.
oh yeah, definitely. And there's
Like what?
also The Killer as well, which I did say like I remember like back in what December 3rd or something. I was like, "Hey, we should talk about this movie because I just seen it." And then now we're only just getting to it, but you know, at least we'll get to The
It's the
Killer
most
as well.
wonderful time of the year, also the busiest time of the year.
Hmm.
So it goes.
Definitely. Um, no. How are you doing, by the way? Like,
Oh, I'm doing
have you
swell. Yeah,
been?
I just got out of seeing Wonka earlier today. Um,
Oh,
I did not like it at all, really.
this surprises me.
No, I didn't
Frankly.
expect to like it. I went to see it kind of on a whim, just
Yeah.
like yes, fuck it. There's nothing else, happening in
Hmm.
January, really. I already saw Night Swim. That was also pretty bad. It's just,
It's a horror
typical,
film.
yeah,
It's
January Blumhouse movie. Didn't
okay.
expect it to be good, but that was pretty bad too. So I saw Wonka and I didn't like that. So otherwise, I'm doing pretty well. But
Okay.
I'm kind of sick of bad movie musicals, and Wonka is definitely one of those.
Oh no. Well, musicals they're kind of tough, you know.
Well,
Uh,
okay, so I have a lot of strong opinions about musicals because I think
hmm.
most of the reason people today don't like musicals is because so many of them these days are awful. They're really bad. It used to be that the movie musical was like this incredible spectacle showcase of the best dancers and the best singers like on the planet, arguably, with some
Hmm.
of the best, composers writing for film, people like Irving Berlin and people like that. Really, really talented people. Like when you went to see a movie musical with someone like Gene Kelly, is like, I don't know if there's a better dancer in the world than Gene Kelly. He's incredible. Nowadays, when you go see a musical, it's something like, I don't know, one of the ones that's well regarded is La La Land. But Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, both good actors. Neither of them are especially good singers or especially good dancers. And some people like the music in La La Land. I'm not a big fan, but there's been so many mediocre to bad movie musicals that people think they don't like them anymore. And it's like, but like they used to be really good. We totally forgotten how to make them good, right?
Yeah.
But if you're the kind of person listening to this who thinks they don't like movie musicals, go watch Singing in the Rain, and if you don't like that, then fine, you know.
I
But
mean, musicals to me, the main problem being is if you overdo the music all the time, I'm gonna get irritated fast, especially if the music is not too memorable or good
yeah,
as well. And
I
they
think
seem to fail in
that's
that
the real
department.
key. That's what the real problem is. You know, people don't like it when they burst into song when the songs are bad. The songs are good, you know. People
What's like a recent-ish musical you kind of liked? Like, 'cause I can't remember a single one. Les Miserables, maybe with Hugh
Oh, Les
Jackman.
Miserables.
Les Miserables.
There
I'm sorry.
were like I think like one or two good songs in that. Otherwise, I thought it was like okay, so what's his name? Russell Crowe, terrible singer, just terrible. It's like we couldn't just dub his voice with someone who can sing. Musicals used to do that all the time. You know, like oh, we got Audrey Hepburn or whoever. She's not a great singer, so we're gonna dub her with Julie Andrews because she's a great singer, and it's fine, and no one cares. And then it sounds
Yeah.
good. Everyone has a good time. But I will say Anne Hathaway in Les Mis was pretty darn good. She had like one scene, one big song, and she was very good in that. I can't think of a recent movie musical that I really liked.
I can't
Honestly,
either. It's difficult.
they're few and far between. I liked some of the Disney Renaissance movies that were musicals. Obviously, those hold up for me.
too.
That was probably the last era of consistently solid movie musicals. Unfortunately.
Didn't Russell Crowe have a band?
If he did, it doesn't come across that way in Les Mis. We'll say that.
Maybe he was the drummer. Who knows? But yeah, when you mentioned like dubs, I'm just reminded of the clip that I saw of Arnold Schwarzenegger being dubbed over, and he was like playing Hercules or something.
Oh, is it Conan? Maybe
I
don't know.
I think it was Hercules actually.
Okay,
it
gotcha.
was definitely, and his accent was so annoying, so unworkable that they just completely dubbed him with
That's
another
pretty
accent.
funny.
I just found that funny. If I'll find it, I'll show you it. But yeah, that's what came to mind when you like just dub over the singer. Hercules in New York, maybe. Yeah. It was Hercules. I'm right. Thanks, chat. Anyway,
I believe you.
I
So
know
don't see Wonka. Wonka's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bother.
Lesson learned, I suppose. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the first segment. I'll roll the clip.
And finally, the piece de résistance.
Okay, this is probably going to be the longest Sucked Into Pop Culture segment ever because we're going to be going down through a list of 2023 films on the Wikipedia, but I will show that in a minute. Before we'll just get to recent movies we've seen. So you've mentioned Wonka. I saw, because you mentioned to me that you have like a cinema thing that you can see essentially any cinema during any film during the month.
Yeah, I have what's called AMC A-List, which is a subscription, a monthly subscription to a theater chain. So at any AMC theater, you can watch up to, I believe, 3 movies a week for like one monthly charge of like, I think it's like $22, $23 a month. So you can essentially, it pays for itself if you go often enough. It's a great deal. So I see a lot more movies than I have in past years because of that, for better and for worse.
I have the same thing. It's just, I don't know, my phone network thing just gives me like a weekly, very cheap ticket weekly, but you can only see it on like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I just use that to see films I normally probably wouldn't see. So yeah, I do some of that too as well, just watching films that you never thought you'd see. Exactly. Is that the clip from where Sandy Yes, it is. Well recognized there, Nathan. Well recognized. But no, I recently saw Michael Mann's Ferrari. Michael Mann's, is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah, I believe.
interesting
Yep.
surname. It sounds like a superhero name. But no, the famous director of Heat and Ferrari. It was okay. I'll say that.
I haven't seen Ferrari. What's
Mm-hmm.
the general gist? I mean, I know the premise, but like, what's your takeaway?
Like it's no Ford v Ferrari. Like I don't think.
Not enough board is what you're saying.
Well, they do indicate that to some extent, actually. Like the deal between Ferrari and Ford, and how Ferrari was kind of using Ford to kind of get another deal. There is some of that in there, which I was like pleasantly surprised by, because I first heard that whole story on a show called Top Gear. I don't know if you've heard of it. And you know they told that historical story beautifully. And you know, then there's a movie about it, and then there's this Ferrari movie. I'm not really like a big car enthusiast, but I'm just interested in that portion of history. And I was just like, it's a good director, it's a good actor. You know what? Why not? Because you know what else was on their list? Aquaman 2, and I'm like,
Yeah.
do I really want to see that? No, thanks. So yeah, I watched Ferrari, and it was okay. I was satisfied with its ending. At the beginning, I was a little lost on who's significant to who. Is this his sister or his second wife? I'm not understanding what's going on. But as the movie progresses, you get a more clearer picture. And yeah, the Italian accents are hit or miss. Sometimes, like, Adam Driver tries with the accent. Sometimes I can just hear Kylo Ren, I suppose. No, not Kylo Ren. Adam Driver himself. So it's just a bit of a mixed bag with the accents. It's a bit. I don't know. I described this movie like eating cornflakes. So I suppose I didn't really have any strong thoughts about it. I'll probably forget about it in like 2 or 3 weeks. But that's not to say it was terrible, because you know I rarely see movies nowadays with an ending that satisfies. You know, like I can think of a lot of movies that have a shit ending, and I'm not happy with it.
I've seen quite a few recently that fall into that category for me.
Yeah, but I was surprised to, you know, with this ending, because I didn't know the history. There was some sort of crash, some sort of accident, and it kind of, you know, depicts it very violently, of a tire bursting on a Ferrari car and, you know, crashing into people, and you know they show the full thing, and I was like completely taken aback by that. It was a biopic though, right? Yes. I don't know how accurate of a biopic, but no, it does get you somewhat invested as the movie goes along. I thought it'd be more of a, I don't know, origin story of how Ferrari was established and etc., but it just seems to
Does it
start
just
in the middle
start
of
when,
his life.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I probably would have expected more of an overview too, but I suppose that can go either way. Sometimes with a biopic, they try to cover a person's entire life, and then the pacing is weird. You know, it kind of stops and starts. But you know, sometimes it can take a like too limited. It's a tough thing to try to figure out what section of a person's life to cover in a movie. But
Yeah. But no, if it's on TV or streaming, I recommend a watch. It's certainly better than Aquaman 2. Maybe.
have you seen Aquaman 2?
No.
No, I don't really
I
care
don't
to
plan
either.
to. Like,
I'm perfectly fine in assuming it sucks. I'm not going to lose any sleep making that assumption.
maybe one day, just for the hell of it, but no, not really all that fussed. I mean, the DCU dies with a whimper and a stagger, and you know nobody cares. It's like a silent death, and nobody really cares. I'm pretty sure they like reshot the film to hell and back as well.
It never ceases to amaze me how often they do that these days. If you go back I don't know, maybe 10, maybe 15 years, it was rare that a movie would have reshoots. It was newsworthy when they decided to reshoot like half of a movie. It was like ooh, what happened there? They decided to reshoot a whole thing. Now it's like every Marvel movie, every DC movie, they're going to do reshoots because, well, a host of reasons, but one of them seems to be that they can never make up their mind in the moment, and they're changing their mind constantly about what direction tonally they want to take a movie in, all that sort of stuff. They okay a script and then they see the cut and they're like, ooh, this sucks, we should redo half of it, and they waste so much money doing it. It's kind of wild.
It's like they don't plan things out, and it's just like you have a shit script, you have a shit plan, and then you're kind of like surprised watching it in the footage. Like I don't get that. It's like
they'd save a lot of money if they just ironed it out ahead of time, but they refuse to do it. Yeah,
they just rush into filming, go.
And I know I've known some people who've worked on some of these, some of these Marvel movies, some of the DC movies that have been shot here. Some Russo brothers projects, that they've done outside of the MCU kind of operate in the same way, where they kind of refuse to make up their mind about things. And so they'll shoot things multiple ways. They waste so much money because they won't just figure it out ahead of time and stick to decisions. And it's not fun for a lot of the crew, from what I understand.
Oh, definitely. Just doing the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity, as some Einstein guy said. And reshooting a film, redoing it, is just like how many times could you do this? No, and you're definitely right. But I also saw The Boy and the Heron. I was expecting something a bit more straightforward and wholesome, I suppose, but that's not really what I got. I've never seen a Studio Ghibli film. That probably didn't help. Apparently, there are ones that I should watch, as to recommended by my watchers. Of some other ones that are kind of more, I don't know, they have a plot and some character stuff. That isn't to say there isn't there is some character stuff at the beginning of this film. It's like a story about this boy who lost his mom. He has a new stepmom now, about to have a new step brother as well. And just by the end of it, during the middle, she gets kidnapped into like this magical world, and the kid has to save her with this weird heron sidekick, I suppose. And it's like, oh, okay, so by the end of the film, it's like resolved. Okay, so this kid likes his new stepmom now. He's over his what would you call it? Original mum. That's a weird phrase. He's over her loss. He likes his new family now, and it's just like, how did that happen exactly? Because I haven't seen really a character arc. Stuff just happens. They escape from like cannibalistic birds. They escape from, I don't know, all sorts of weird stuff. They assemble kind of blocks and meet a grand wizard, and it's just like scene after scene after scene. You have no idea what each scene really serves, what purpose it serves. And I was having a real hard time understanding any of it when watching the film.
I haven't seen it myself, but I have heard similar complaints that it's a bit disconnected, that's a little too abstract for its own good, perhaps. And that's always, he has a little bit of that in his other movies, but the ones that are better. But I think, from what I understand, from what I've been told, that this movie is he kind of takes that into an extreme. I would definitely recommend what's it called, Spirited Away, and some of those movies are definitely, they're a bit more grounded. And I think you'd enjoy them a lot more.
I guess I'll have to check it out, but it's just like, maybe this wasn't the wisest idea of starting off with this one, but hey, I recency bias, I suppose. Oh, this is the newest one. Let's watch that one. I have a cheap ticket for it. Why not?
Yeah, I was planning on seeing it until my friend Hugh said, like, you wouldn't like it. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's unfortunate. I was pretty excited for it. The trailer looked, the animation looked pretty stunning. it looks like a fun sort of magical adventure fairy tale type thing. Yeah, but then I hear that it's just like a bit kind of, I don't know if incomprehensible is the right word, but something like that. It's a bit too opaque.
Yeah, like it's comprehensible in parts, but in some parts it's just like, okay, sure, you kind of shrug your shoulders. You saw this movie as well, but I also saw Godzilla -1. I was eagerly waiting for that because I was hearing all sorts of things, movie of the year and whatnot. What did you think of it?
I like it, not as much as some people do.
Okay.
Some people love it. Some people say, best movie of the year and everything. I found a lot to like about it. There's just a couple things that keep it from being great, in my opinion, but I understand why people love it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to spoil anything, but the ending especially was not great in my opinion. But the main character and his arc and the sort of conflicts that comprise the human element of the story, which is something that is usually bad in Godzilla movies, was pretty good here. And so I liked it. I'd easily recommend it. I think my ideal Godzilla movie is some sort of like you take the best bits of -1 and the best bits of Shin Godzilla and combine them. That would be a perfect movie for me. As it is, I think they're both pretty good.
Okay.
Definitely an easy recommend.
Yeah. I think I'm sort of in the same vein because I was hearing all this like, oh, masterpiece, movie of the year. Having watched it, I don't think it's completely masterful in its execution, but I still really liked it. I liked the setting. I liked the characters. I liked the Godzilla's atomic breath. I don't know. I found the dialogue, I suppose, a bit clunky, maybe some plot things, but I can't say I disliked it. I can see that there's some flaws within it, and that it's not really like a Meisterstick or anything like this, but it's simply a simple movie filmed really well, and I just find it hard to dislike. Even though it has some flaws, but
To the person in the chat who brought up Godzilla 1954, I do really like 1954. I really like that movie. I think that might be the best one just in terms of this story. I don't know. It's between those three. So Godzilla -1, Shin Godzilla, and the original are like clearly the best three out there.
And what are you on about? Godzilla versus monsters is peak. What are you on about? Jeez.
Yeah, I rewatched quite a few Godzilla movies before covering -1 on our channel.
Like all of them, even the
no, not all of them. There's I don't want to make up a number, but I think there's maybe, I don't know. There's dozens of these movies. I did not rewatch all of them. I tried to focus on the ones where Godzilla was the main antagonist.
Okay.
Because that's what Godzilla -1 is. Because there's the other side of Godzilla movies where he's kind of I don't know,
hero.
A hero, an anti-hero, a mascot. He fights monsters on behalf of humanity. They cause a bunch of destruction, but ultimately he's a good guy. Those are kind of like the two poles of Godzilla movies. Weirdly, the 2014 movie tries to combine them into one film. But 1954, Shin Godzilla, Godzilla -1. If you took all the best bits of those three movies, you'd have a masterpiece. But as is, it's like they're all pretty good.
I need to watch Shin Godzilla.
It's different. So the main difference I think between Shin Godzilla and -1 is that Shin Godzilla is less concerned with like emotional character arcs than it is just following people trying to solve the problem. And so the like trying to solve the problem of Godzilla and how to defeat it and how like what to do about it, I think that aspect is better in Shin Godzilla than -1. Godzilla -1 is just like out of nowhere, suddenly we've developed this plan to try and I won't spoil it too much in case people haven't seen it yet, but the plan with the floats and everything just kind of, it's like, oh, it's just dropped on you, like we have this plan, by the way. And it's like, oh, okay, I mean, I guess that's not a bad plan, but there was no real build up to it. That's fine. Shin Godzilla is a bit more concerned with the nitty gritty of trying to solve the problem. It's also more of like a a satire farce of like government ineptitude in response to it.
Okay.
So very different aims and goals of the two films, but I think, yeah, so you're not going to find the emotional sort of heart of -1 in Shin Godzilla, really. Like none of the main characters, like we don't know anything about their personal lives at all, really.
Yeah. Would it be safe to say Godzilla -1, the best Godzilla movie? I don't know if that's a high bar or not.
It is not a high
One of the
bar.
best.
It's in the top 3. I would happily put it in the top 3. I don't think I'd give it number 1 personally.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
I think
I've seen very few Godzilla, maybe some of the old ones, with like Mothra and other weird monsters like that as a kid.
yeah, I don't find they hold up super well, especially in the human story department. I am
Definitely.
of the opinion that needs to be good, otherwise you don't have a good movie. Period.
And this
I don't
was a step in the right direction.
Yes, it
with
was.
-1.
Yes, it was. So I'm happy to praise it. I'm happy people liked it. People seem to love it, and I can't quite get there myself, but it's good.
Definitely. Okay, let's get to the 3 movies I wanted to discuss before we get to 2023 films. I suppose we'll start with The Killer. Originally, this was set to release on Netflix, but they did give it a cinema release.
Okay, I saw it on Netflix. I didn't see it in the theater.
So I had this like fancy indie cinema, and it was the only cinema that they played at. It was like near the university I graduated at, and I just thought, okay, I'll go here, and it's just like, oh great, I kind of forgot there was a. No, it wasn't Karl Marx's statue. It was his partner, whatever his name. There's a statue of
Was
him.
it Engels?
Engels, yes.
Yeah.
There's a statue of Engels, like nearly right in front of the cinema, and it's of course the commercials was just like obnoxious, and I'm like, rolling my eyes. Please, just start the movie already, please, for the love of God. And it did start, and I liked it, but to say that I fully understood it would be a lie. What can I say? I mean, I like the acting in it. I liked how it was filmed. Visually, it's beautiful. You know, I enjoy all the kills in it. I mean, the movie's titled Killer. Obviously, there's going to be some kills. But if you ask me, what was the character arc in this film? What was the theme?
Yeah.
Or anything like that, I'd be just like, shrugs, I have no idea. But I still liked it, you know? I just didn't know what it was really about. What I hate to say this, like what message it wanted, I don't know. Not message, I suppose. What it was trying to say as a movie in general. I think Mauler said that it was his favorite movie of 2023. I think he
Oh,
said
that's
that.
interesting. So I saw it, and I made some tweet. It wasn't super detailed, but I said that I was disappointed with it because David Fincher is one of my favorite directors, and I think so. Like, you know, The Social Network and Fight Club and Gone Girl and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and Seven, all these
Seven,
movies. I love these movies. Zodiac too. And I was disappointed with The Killer. I wouldn't say it's bad, but I didn't find a whole lot to like grab onto or care about personally. I didn't really like the main character or his story. But
I don't think we're supposed to like him. He's very
but I'll tell you-
pedantic with his monologue, like towards the start as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Okay, so because there are a lot of stories about unlikable characters, right? Who, you know, are bad people, villainous, and that sort of thing, where they're the main character and you follow them and, you know, make for really good stories. I found. So I did talk anyway. I put out this tweet. I'll come back to that. Mahler's like, "Oh, you didn't like it? I loved it." So we talked about it, and he sort of explained what he saw in it in terms of the character arc, and it did make more sense of it than what I got from the first viewing. I can appreciate what it was doing and what it was going for, but I didn't really care, to put it bluntly. I wasn't like I'm not invested in this story, what happens to this guy, etc. But one of the things Mahler talked about in terms of the story, and I'll see if I can do the character arc justice, is you have someone who considers himself a perfect killing machine. He's a contract killer.
Until he fucks up.
Yes, he considers himself cold-blooded, and he forbids empathy for the sake of his job. He doesn't concern himself with the morality of what he's doing. He's very patient and methodical. He considers himself, he kind of looks down on everyone else as like one of the many, and he considers himself one of the few, like the few people who are actually making decisions in life. Everyone else is just, being either puppeted around, or like they're not really in control of their lives, but he's in control of his life and that sort of thing. And he considers himself like perfect at his job. He's got it down to a science, right? He's got his heart rate monitor and all this sort of stuff. And then
even talking about Mackey's burgers,
yeah. He's got a really, he's pretty competent, at least in his own description of himself, right? And then he makes a mistake. I think a rather dumb mistake, but it can happen to the best of them, one assumes, right? So he makes a mistake and kills someone he wasn't supposed to. That's that's where the plot begins. And then everything about I shouldn't say everything, a lot of his perception of himself, his worldview, his facade that he's concocted is sort of crumbling a bit. And that's sort of the general arc of the story, is that like his perception of himself and his view on the world and who he is and how he relates to other people is sort of undone once he realizes how things go once he makes a mistake. That's the gist of it, without spoiling it too much, because a lot of people seem to really enjoy this movie. So I definitely say, like, give it a chance. I wasn't super invested in this guy's story, especially because there's no real moral component to the story. Like he has, there's no sort of reckoning there. It was, for me, if I'm putting it harshly, it was like watching a psychopath become a different kind of psychopath in the end. And I'm just like, I don't know why I'm supposed to care all that much about what happens to him. But a lot of people really appreciate the arc. It's very subtle, and a lot of people really like the subtlety. It's a well-made film and all that. Yeah,
I reckon it's too subtle, way past my head. But now that you do explain it, I do see it.
A lot of it is like it's a very, very dry kind of dark humor about sort of like undoing this guy who thinks very highly of himself as the perfect killer, and like kind of the story kind of like pokes at his facade and like, is this are you really are you really as in control of your life as you think you are? Especially because like as things start to unravel, basically something of his conclusion at the end is that realizing just how not in control of his life he was before, and like starting to make decisions for himself is kind of a big part of the arc. And I can appreciate that, like theoretically, but when I watched it, I was not super engaged with that aspect of the story. I liked him having to solve problems and trying to kill these people, and just watching a very methodical person go about that job.
Yes.
I enjoyed that. I like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross and their music in general. I didn't find it as like memorable as some of their past scores, but they, it still had a cool vibe to it,
Yeah. I reckon this is exactly how they should, if they ever do a Hitman movie of this someone very competent. I feel like it did get a good perspective on the job of an assassin, because we know there's assassins out there, but if we know their names and stuff like that and what exactly they do, that's kind of shrouded in mystery. So I guess it's like a bird's eye view on what exactly does an assassin do, how does he do it, and etc. And that to get like a camera in that kind of lifestyle is definitely fascinating. But no, it's just I was definitely struggling, like, okay, what kind of journey is he going on here? But yeah, now that you have said it, I guess the puzzle piece fits. But no, it would have not hurt. It would have not dawned on me when watching the film, and that's kind of a shame, I suppose. But,
I've thought about rewatching it after I talked to Mahler about it and what he saw in the movie and what he found to appreciate. Because when he laid it all out, I'm like, okay, that sounds like it makes sense. And assuming there's nothing in the movie to contradict the interpretation you just laid out, I could appreciate that. But I told him at the time, I'm like, I bet if I rewatched it, I still wouldn't really care. And I think that's, just
compared to his other
thing.
films as well, David Fincher's
Yeah, I
films.
found the main character a bit alienating in terms of being invested in his story. There are plenty of other villainous or even downright evil characters who are a bit more compelling to watch, in my opinion, either because they're charismatic. Michael Fassbender is good in the movie, but he's very robotic almost. That's the point. I get it, but it's like I didn't find him as compelling to watch as some other villainous characters, other villainous protagonists, let's say. And I think another it's there was no real reckoning for what he's done that I found a little disappointing too. But that's more a personal preference thing. I know a lot of people that really enjoyed this movie, and I can see it, but it just didn't do it. Not in the same way as like other David Fincher movies, where I find the main characters much more compelling in terms of like really being invested in what happens to them, whether they're likable or not. Like I really, I care about where this character ends up. I didn't really feel that.
Yeah, like Gone Girl as well. Like arguably, the main character is not a great.
No, he's not.
Individual.
He's not as bad, right?
Yeah.
No, I really like Gone Girl. I'm a big fan of that movie. And I've always found that David Fincher is a very, very talented craftsman, and I think that's true here as well. It's just I didn't the story didn't really grip me the way some of his other ones do. I think it's a bit niche, I think. I wouldn't recommend this to my parents, like the way I might recommend a movie like Gone Girl, just because it's there's a bit more of a relatable human element to it.
My little brother, he absolutely loves Seven. I think it might be one of his favorite movies ever. And I'm just like, oh yeah, same director. He just put out something to Netflix, and it's just like, oh cool, I'll watch it. And next day he just goes to me, yeah, I don't like it. I couldn't help but just chuckle a little bit.
It's a little divisive. I don't know anyone that hates it, but I know I'm not the only one who was like, I don't know what I was supposed to really get from or like to care about that. I think when I was talking to Mahler about it, he said he watched it with I believe it was Fringy and Wolf didn't really get it either, or didn't really like it. I mean, it seems to be something.
I'm glad we're not the only ones.
There's a little bit of a split where some people really like it and some people are like, I don't know what was that supposed to be?
Yeah. I guess before I entered, I was really expecting kind of a full of himself kind of assassin who's kind of I guess I knew that was. I knew it was going to be something like that coming into it, but I guess I expected a clearer arc, and it was just no, really. It felt more like I don't know, documentary film kind of just this moment in a person's life. Some bad things happen and some good things happen, and he walks away. It didn't feel, I don't know, like that it was leading to some grand resolution, really. In fact, he just lets the final guy go, and it just leaves and sits on the beach. Like, oh, that's a nice ending.
It's definitely not the ending.
Like a moment in life situation. Like if you just put if you just strapped a camera at a random person's life, and you kind of just have this bit and some shenanigans go on and stuff like that. Didn't really feel like story-ish. I don't know if
it's
I'm
definitely a movie that deliberately sets about to subvert expectations. I mean that's what they're doing. You take the cold-blooded contract killer, mercenary, assassin archetype and kind of like break it down a little bit and try to like get at like, oh, is what you think about yourself really true? This is a sort of deconstructing, subverting some of the tropes you might expect from this sort of movie. That we've already said it, that he sort of lets the guy go at the end is definitely not what you'd expect from this type of movie. And I think that's very much part of what they were going for. I didn't really connect with it. I can appreciate it more on paper than I can actually watching it personally. But
Okay.
it's a
Yeah.
it's a film.
No, it's a film. Yeah, indeed. Next film I wanted to mention. I'm nearly called it again American Society. I don't know why. American Fiction. How did you find that? Because the trailer for it looks fantastic.
I really liked the trailer and I was pretty excited for it, but I thought, well, I this is another movie for different reasons, but I appreciate it more on paper. I appreciate that it exists more than I actually enjoyed it as a movie. So the gist of American Fiction, like, it's fine. It's a perfectly fine movie. There's some good stuff to appreciate.
Passable.
And there's some stuff I genuinely like. The general gist is it's based on a book that came out, I believe, like in the 2000s or maybe even the 90s. Anyway, it's a little bit older when the book came out. But anyway, about an author, a black author who writes fiction, and he's finding himself pressured by the writers around him and also his publisher to write a black book. And he's like, so the main character is played by Jeffrey Wright, and he says, like, they already have a black book because I'm black and this is my book. And they're like, no, you know what they mean. They want something more about stereotypical black trauma, essentially, whether it's inner city life or dealing with the police and that sort of stuff. They want stereotypical black stories. And so he's he's sort of pushing against that. He writes a book as a joke to mock that sort of group, but then the book becomes very successful. And that central premise is really great. I think there's a lot to really appreciate about it as a sign of, if it's a sign of anything, it's a sign that the culture is taking a baby step in the right direction, is sort of how I described it. Because there's something I found that really resonated with me about that, because I've always felt that if I were black and an artist, I would be really annoyed that so many black, African American specifically stories are just about suffering and pain and trauma and slavery and police violence and all that stuff. And it's just like, why aren't there just like black people doing normal stuff in sci-fi movies and adventure films and yada yada yada, all that sort of stuff, where like it seems like so much of stories that are aimed at and made for and made by African American people are just about being black, not just about being people, right? And so I know that would really annoy me. And so seeing a character who's also really annoyed by that and kind of, pushes against it and then writes something satirical as a joke to mock them, and then it's really successful. There's a lot of great stuff there. I thought, however, that they didn't go far enough, I think, in terms of the satire and the sort of critique of like why this is happening and what is to be done about it and what it means. I thought they like scratched the surface but didn't really go as deep. If you ever watch South Park?
Yes.
You know how every South Park story, whether it's an episode or the movie or whatever, they take everything to 11, right? They take everything to its logical extreme to find the end point, right? Where it's like, you pushed this satire as far as it can go, and it gets ridiculous, right? I feel like so many South Park stories end with things going at like the national or world level, just because everything gets as big as it can for the sake of the joke and the satire and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
in American Fiction,
Kennedy under my bed kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and American Fiction didn't really push it far enough, in my opinion. I think so one of the main jokes or the points of the satire of the movie is how much white liberals don't really care as much about black people just telling stories about being people, as like they really want to support black people writing about being black because it'll make them look good and feel good to support that, right? And a lot of jokes are made at the expense of white liberals, or I should specify white progressives, right? A lot of jokes are made at their expense, and I'm here for that. That's great, good stuff. But I didn't feel like there was quite enough, because one of the reasons I think this happens is that there are activists who want these kind of stories all the time for the sake of pushing activist goals, right? So there's all these movies about black trauma trauma porn, as it's often referred to derisively, for
Kind
the
of like
sake.
we watch the news, and it's always kind of bad and kind of
Yeah,
stuff like
because
this,
if you keep making those kind of stories, it like keeps the pressure on for achieving the social change they want. So there's like an activist bent to why they keep doing this. It's not just because white liberals eat it up. It's because black activists are trying to push for certain things, and telling these stories constantly, incessantly, all the time is part of like pressuring people for certain change, right? And they didn't really address that side of it, as far as I could tell. Like all the jokes were at the expense of sort of like virtue signaling white progressive types, which is fine. I'm all for those jokes, but it didn't quite go far enough for me. That's one half of the movie. The other half of the movie is basically while he's writing this book about, this fake book about like growing up in the inner city, deadbeat dads and drugs and police violence, all the sort of stereotypical stuff. He's dealing with a very sort of normal, average human drama, where he's got a mom who's got early onset Alzheimer's or something like that. He's like, he's got a sister who dies, and he's like, his family is kind of fractious and he's trying to keep it together. He's got a relationship that's not maybe going the way he hoped it would. Normal human stuff, right? And I get the point, right? That like, we're just people. Here's just a normal human story. It's not about being black. It's just being about a person with a family and siblings and a troubling relationship with your parents, whatever, all that sort of stuff. All that stuff was fine. I didn't love it. I thought it was like, I got the point more than I was really invested in his human drama personally. The whole thing is fine, maybe even good, but I had higher hopes for it. And, there are worse things to watch this time of year.
You don't have to tell me. Yeah.
It's fuck you, it's January, as they say. And, there are so many worse ways you could spend 2 hours in a movie theater. I enjoyed it enough that I'd be like, yeah, it's worth checking out. But it could have been amazing, I think.
It could have been much, much better. It could have been.
Yeah, the trailer made it seem great. I was like, oh my God, this is great. This is really cool. I was really excited for it. It's like, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah. That's fascinating what you just spoke about. And it's definitely the case that these activist groups just put you in a certain box, and it's just like, this is all you can write about. This is all you're allowed because of your skin color. You know stuff about this, and it's just like, that's not really the case. And I don't know, just to see a satire of it finally is definitely a interesting purpose. But the way you say that, it just doesn't dig deeper in.
I don't think it digs deep enough. That's the big critique. It's still good. It's still like, I'm glad someone's out there making this point. It's refreshing, and Jeffrey, is it Jeffrey Wright?
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Anyway,
Wright.
his character is very relatable in that respect. He makes a lot of fun, comments and jokes that I was like, yes,
you mean a do-rag, like kind of thing.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun. And like, I think the one that resonates most with me is like, they want a black book, and he's like, but they have a black book. I'm black. This is my book. Like, you know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff. It's really good.
Yeah. No, it seems like fun, but I guess now that we have a movie like this, there might be some. It might encourage more satire in the future like this, I suppose.
I think so. I think you might say that this is kind of safe satire. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, this would have been a bit more hard hitting 5-10 years ago than it is now. And so maybe, like, I think the harshest I would be about it is that it's a little toothless, but the fact that it's being said now at all, even if it is a bit safer now than it was 5-10 years ago, I think is a good thing. And so I wouldn't want to be too harsh on it.
Okay. Next movie might not be as fun as American Fiction. The Iron Claw. Now,
you won't have the chance to see this right until like February. Is that what you told me?
Yes.
Okay. So I would recommend this movie, so I won't spoil too much.
I know I know Brothers and They Die. That's
It's a very
kind of
sad movie.
yes.
It's like, ooh, it hits you pretty goddamn hard because they had a very sort of tragic spell in their life. This family of professional wrestlers, but it's a very well made movie, and it's just hopeful and wholesome enough at the end to kind of not make it too miserable to watch. But it gets pretty harsh there. It gets pretty heavy. I really like it. I really like it. It's one of my favorite movies of the year, maybe top 3. I really liked it, and I'd highly recommend it. Zac Efron is great. I love. Oh God, I know his name. What is it? It's Holt. I think it's McEnany, I believe. He's also in Mindhunter, among other things.
He played the father.
Tench. Yes, he plays the father. He's incredible. I'm glad he's getting more big roles like this because he's an incredible actor.
And this is an A24 film, aren't they? Like really, really out there with like Green Knight. I mean, this movie seems like
well, that's the thing about it.
Normal-ish.
Yeah. So A24 is both a distribution studio and a production studio. So they make some things themselves, and they buy up things that are made by other companies in order to distribute them. They're they have a pretty wide range. They have some things that I think, as you were kind of implying there, that can be very out there, very artsy, very like unapproachable or whatever, or maybe even a little degenerate. There's a lot of that sort of stuff, but they also have stuff that's a bit more normal and grounded, just character driven. The Iron Claw is it's a character drama. That's really what it is at its core. You could call it a sports movie, obviously, but it's not as weird or indie as you might assume from A24. I think they have quite a few things that aren't nearly as weird. They have a sort of reputation for doing the out there weird, horror stuff, but they've made some pretty normal movies too. And this is one of those.
Right. So I'm guessing this was it wasn't made by them, but just
I don't believe so. Maybe? I can look it up actually, but yeah, the Iron Claw, distributed by A24. Yeah, but who produced it?
Because
anyway,
I remember all these movies. Like, I remember looking forward to Green Knight because I do like medieval mythology, but I never got around to it because I've been hearing some weird things and happenings going in it. Might give that movie a watch someday, but I don't know. I'm hearing mixed things about it.
The Green Knight, you mean?
Yeah, the Green Knight. Yeah.
Are you familiar at all with? Well, he's many things, but he has a YouTube channel as well. Jonathan Pajot. Are you familiar with him?
Yes.
Okay, so
he's a friend of JP, and I listen to JP a lot. So
who's JP?
Jordan Peterson.
Oh, okay, yes, I know. Yes, that's sort of how I discovered Pajot too. I like him a lot. I like his work a lot. He has a couple of videos you can find about the Green Knight and talking about the symbolism and what he found.
Wait. Just wait a second. I will show you something. I'll be back in 1 second.
All right. I'll keep going. He has some. He has a couple of videos, I believe, talking about the Green Knight and the symbolism of the Green Knight movie that he didn't like as compared to the fairy tale itself. Yeah, he's got some good content. I like it. He talks a lot about symbolism. That's sort of his main deal, but he can be very insightful, I think. Yeah, so the Iron Claw, it's good. Go check it out whenever you can, whenever it's available for you. I think it's a good movie. It's just very heavy. Oh, nice. You have his graphic novel.
I really liked it.
Oh, yeah?
It's got beautiful art. Very simple, easy to understand. I don't know.
Nice.
Indie comics are a hit or a miss for me, but I really like this one. I knew what I was getting, and I got it, and yeah. No, you were saying about Jonathan Pajot. Sorry.
He just had some. He had some. He has a video or two, I think, that I've seen where he talks about the Green Knight and what he doesn't like about it specifically.
Oh, specifically the A24 movie.
Yeah, some subversions they make of the original story that he's obviously a much bigger fan of. And so he talks about what he doesn't like about the symbolism of it. It's a pretty good video. Check it out.
Okay.
I have not heard great things about the Green Knight movie.
Mhm.
I've heard that it looks cool. That's about it.
Yeah.
I've not heard good things.
Darn it. Um,
That's another
But-
movie that at the time I was pretty excited to see, and then a couple people whose opinions I generally trust were like, I didn't know.
Completely the same. That's exactly what happened with me as well. But no, did you find out what Iron Claw was produced by? What was it?
Iron Claw Production Companies. It says A24, BBC Films, Access Entertainment, House Productions. So it sounds like they cobbled together the funding from a couple different companies, which is quite common in the sort of smaller budget indie world. For example, I saw a movie last year called Anatomy of a Fall, which I quite liked. That movie had like, I want to say 9 or 10 production companies listed. They listed them all on screen on one big like image because there were so many names. It was kind of funny. Yeah, you know, with a lot of these sort of movies, they sort of cobble together funding wherever they can because it can be kind of hard. But yeah, so it's an A24 movie. That's who's distributing it. So it has a limited release. It seems it's not a wide release. You know, I can sort of tell the difference between a limited release and a wide release because I have 2 movie theaters near me. One is closer, but it only has 8 theaters, so only the big movies go there. And then I have one that's a little further away with 14 theaters, and they'll get some of the indie stuff, like Iron Claw, like Poor Things, like American Fiction, things like that. But anyway, the Iron Claw, I really liked it. Just know that it's gonna be heavy.
I'm ready for that. I can't wait to watch it. I'm not. Would you describe yourself as like a big wrestling enthusiast? And
No.
do you really need to be to watch it? I don't think so.
I don't think so either because I am not. Or yeah, I had this sort of. I've never really watched, you know, professional wrestling. I've always had this sort of general, uninformed opinion that it's just kind of fake, and so why would you care? But you know, you do go into this movie, even if you know nothing about professional wrestling of this sort, and appreciate that it is a sort of like, it is a lot like acting. You know, it's not a sport the way like Greco-Roman wrestling is, but there's a lot of physicality to it, and it's a lot about like being a performer. They're kind of like stuntmen, acting out a sort of, you know. So I grew to appreciate it more than I did before. But you definitely don't need to be obsessed with the world of professional wrestling to appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm wondering like what wrestling enthusiasts would also think of it, because I did hear that they missed out a brother in this, like in the actual history. There was another brother who.
So if I give you the basic premise for anyone listening is a family of professional wrestlers. Their dad is the one who sort of he has like a family dynasty of professional wrestlers, right? And they have, in the movie, they have 3 sons, one of whom, actually no, 4 sons. One of them dies when he's a kid, and 3 children make it to adulthood. And there's a sort of belief that the family is cursed, and based on what happens in their life, it's kind of hard not to feel that way. Lot of tragedy in the family. In real life, there was another son who was not included in the movie, who also died tragically, killed himself. So it's almost like the movie decided not to include him for the sake of making it a bit more believable and tolerable. That like so much, like, because it, you know, it's almost like that would have been too much almost. So I've looked a little bit into what was changed from the real story. I don't think anything was changed so drastically that I would be critical of it. Yeah, I wouldn't. There's nothing that they changed, because sometimes you watch a movie based on real events and they change them so thoroughly that it's like, that actually seems like you did something bad actually by lying about this. I didn't feel that way at all based on what I read about the real story. If you're really big into the world of professional wrestling, you probably know the Von Erich family. So maybe your knowledge of the real story might impact your viewing a little bit, because I think they changed some things. Obviously, they don't include one brother at all in the story, but I know that the main guy who Zac Efron plays was mostly positive about the portrayal in the story. He thought they were a little harsh on the dad character, so that kind of, remains to be seen. But I think it's
well,
a
he
good
has
movie.
a biased view. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a good movie in the way that like The Social Network is a good movie, and I don't really care how accurate it is. I think it's just a really good story. Yeah, this is one of those. So
Okay.
I would highly recommend you go check it out at some point. Anyone listening?
Okay. Sounds like a glow. I can't wait to watch it. I've been looking forward to that movie. So it's the one movie in early January, February. Well, I guess it comes out for me February. That I've been looking forward to watch. I have no idea why it's coming out so late here, but
Sometimes that happens. I don't know why. It's like, oh, it's not coming out in Australia for another 3 months or something random like that. Like, what? Why? What happened here? I don't know.
Definitely. Okay, shall we get to films of 2023? Now, here is a little list of the biggest box office.
Actually, give me 1 second. I'm gonna run to the bathroom. Be all right.
Yeah, so this is like a surprising little list, and I don't know, half of these movies I had no idea would be even on here. Like number 10 here, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. I knew that film. I don't even know if it's a film. I guess it's kind of like a live stream of a film, and yeah, it made a bunch of money. I'm pretty sure it played something else to it. Yeah, so many perfectly good ones. Yeah, definitely. Shame I'll have to miss out, but live I'll watch the replay. Oh, cheers, Nathaniel Perry. But no, Taylor Swift tour. So many Taylor Swifts watch that thing. It's absolutely insane. I'm pretty sure they kind of danced around in a circle at one movie theater. So yeah, Taylor Swift stands. They're not particularly healthy in the head. I mean,
I'm back. Hello,
that
hello.
doesn't say hello. Yeah, I'm just talking about Taylor Swift stands. Because it's number 10 on the list on the highest grossing films of 2023. And I gotta say, like, when I pictured the highest grossing films of 20, I did not expect it to look like this. Because looking at this, and it's a little lackluster.
Oh, okay. So that list appears to be domestic only, right? I don't know if that
Yes.
changes much if you include
No.
international. I know, well, because I believe Super Mario Brothers movie made more, right? Total? Maybe not.
I'm pretty sure Barbie made the most money throughout this year. I think at least. Well, why isn't Avatar on here either? Didn't that make a bunch of money as well?
Oh, at least in America, it came out in 2022.
Ah. Okay. I'm
Okay, so-
getting mixed up. Avatar.
Okay, so
Avatar
yeah.
was last year.
Oh, so I'll send you this link just in case it's any different. I don't know where I send that. I'll send it here.
Private chat. Yeah,
That is the worldwide box office rankings. Barbie is number 1. I didn't realize it passed Super Mario Brothers.
Okay.
Wow.
No,
So that
okay.
the list changes a little bit.
Okay, this is a better list. Thanks for
I
that,
don't
by the way.
I don't see Taylor Swift on there.
Oh, thank God. No, but I wouldn't be surprised I'd be on the list because I did hear the Taylor Swift thing making a bunch
Oh, it's
of
at
money.
number 22 internationally.
Yeah.
$250 million. Wow.
What is it? Do you know? Like,
Oh, it's a concert film. You know, she had a big tour, national, international tour, whatever. Lots of like sold out arenas everywhere. So it's basically like filmed versions of that concert tour for people to watch, I guess, who want to relive it or who didn't see it. It's just, it's a concert in a movie form.
Interesting.
I don't think there's a story to it. I don't think it's a documentary. From what I understand, it's just a concert on film.
I have no idea why anyone would watch that, but sure.
Well, I assume because they like her music. That's
yeah.
I assume that's it.
You know what?
I'm not sure. I can't be 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with that.
Okay, let's have a look here. Barbie number 1. So yeah, okay, of course. and then Super Mario Brothers very close behind it, from what
Yeah,
it seems. Only
I am surprised that Barbie beat Super Mario Brothers.
yeah, because I'd guess on a surface level, Mario as a pop culture figure is more popular than Barbie, right?
Maybe, but definitely Super Mario Brothers is more of a family movie. So you
To get
think
the
it would
kids
have,
in, and you get more
yeah,
money from that.
yeah, and families everywhere. I mean, I know Barbie sort of marketed itself as a family movie. I'd argue it kind of isn't in a lot of ways,
Oh,
but
definitely. The thing is, like, I can't remember where I heard this, but there is so many films like Star Wars where they try to appeal to the female audience with Star Wars movies, even though Star Wars would be more kind of like a targeted towards a male audience. You know, they're trying to get girls to like these more popular franchises, and there's never been kind of like, at least nothing that I recall, that's been an outright movie for the female audience. I guess there was a drought
well,
in that market, and this one just kind of
I think
upshot it.
maybe there has been, but I think you're forgetting. I mean, actually, there has been a drought because for a long time it was rom-coms, right? Romantic comedies were mostly the domain of women. You know, obviously there's a bit of both for all of these sort of things. You know, there are women who
I
like
mean,
Star
the
Wars.
boyfriend is gonna get dragged by the ear to it, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's some good ones though. If you haven't seen When Harry Met Sally, that's probably the best rom-com of all time. It's a great movie. Love
I
that
watched
movie.
that. Yeah.
It's good.
Quite funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
amusing.
So I think there has been sort of a drought of romantic comedies in general. So I do think Barbie filled the niche in terms of like a bright, colorful, fun movie, ostensibly aimed at girls, though really I would say the movie is aimed at like millennial women who are getting older now. Like that's who it's actually for. You know, it's not really a movie for girls, I think. But anyway, it sort of presented itself that way, and I think that's a big part of its success. It filled.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the trailers, and I was like, you know what, this might actually be good. This might actually be like silly, colorful fun. Ryan Gosling looks really funny in the movie. He was really funny in the movie, I should say.
Kind
But-
of like a hench Tom Felton. I don't know. That's good. It can remind me of.
And you know, it looked like silly fun for the whole family, and I think we didn't really get that. But a movie's box office success is at least in part how like what people think it's going to be before they actually see it. And I think a big part of Barbie's success is how they presented it more so than what it actually was. It's a bit of both, obviously, but it definitely filled the niche, you know, for sure. If they had even more songs, it would have filled an even bigger niche.
Yeah. But no, Hollywood's gonna learn the wrong lessons from this, I think.
Yeah,
like
I
Barbie
think
2, 3,
for sure.
and then yeah.
You know, because I think what the movie could have been is what you want more of, which is just like
Yeah, and it's
fun. It's fun.
it's not really what was advertised the movie.
No, I think a lot of people have made that point, and I definitely agree. It's a little they hid or downplayed these sort of like aging feminist trying to justify the existence of Barbie angle. You know, like that's sort of
Yeah.
they kind of hid that away a little bit, and that's a lot of what the movie is. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
I don't know. It's just like I'm looking at this list, and it's just like none of these movies are kind of the movies I'd remember, like Fast X, number 5. Mission Impossible is something I'd probably forget, even though I was really looking forward to that one.
So my friend Hugh is big into the Fast and Furious movies because he loves the schlock. He thinks like they're just wild, insane, stupid movies, and he loves them. I don't get it personally. Clearly enough people liked it because look, it's number 5 of the year. That's crazy.
Apparently it was Apparently it was a flop. Oh no, Fast. Oh, you mean Fast X? I thought you meant Mission Impossible. Yeah,
No, Fast X, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Mission Impossible had such a high budget that I would imagine that it actually
Ah,
did
it filmed during COVID
struggle.
as well. Yeah, from what I remember. And I'm pretty sure there's like an infamous Tom Cruise clip of him shouting at people behind the set somewhere. So I do remember that was
Oh,
filmed during
so
the COVID thing.
so apparently the budget, I didn't actually know this, for Dead Reckoning Part 1 was $290 million.
Ouch.
So at a budget that high, yeah, I think that is a disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't think that $567 million would be like $500 million could make for a flop, but if the budget's that high, then yeah.
Mm-hmm. And look at Five Nights at Freddy's, number 18 out of the year.
Yeah, and that
And,
was I
and
think
20
that
million?
had a budget
30?
of like 20, something like that, maybe 25. Yeah, good
Goddamn.
for them. I've said it before, but I think Jason Blum is the smartest man in Hollywood. Blumhouse does not make best movies at all, but as a businessman, he is killing it. And I find like he understands, they understand what to spend money on and what not to spend money on. It's like the sweet spot for them seems to be somewhere between 5 million and 20 million. They don't make a whole lot more than that. They don't make a lot of movies more expensive than that. They have the Halloween trilogy that came out in the last 10 years. Those were pretty expensive because they knew those were going to make money, and they did. So, but yeah, he's smart, man. You know.
Yep. Speaking of Blumhouse, the first movie of the year was Megan, and I do remember that because I used to work.
Mafregan.
Yes. Like Fantastic.
Yes, exactly.
I used to work in a cinema. I exactly remember this movie coming out. I have no idea what made it so popular, especially in the month of January where it's so dead. I remember it making a profit. So what you said, yeah, it's definitely Blumhouse is definitely something profitable. But I do remember that movie. Never understood its appeal of this
I think it
robotic
looked.
doll.
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. I mean, there are parts that I found funny. It didn't seem to take itself too seriously. It seemed like, so I watched it with my friends around this time last year, and some of them were like, "Oh, that was great." Not that they actually thought it was good, but that it was a great time because it was so goofy and bad. I just thought it was bad. But some people are like, "That's hilariously stupid. That's very entertaining." I just saw Night Swim like a couple days ago. That was pretty stupid. But, my friend enjoyed it more than I did because it was stupid, and I was just like, "This is so dumb." Though, I like my good share of dumb movies, but that was
a level of dumb.
Didn't do it for me. But
Knock Out the Cabin. Did you watch that by any chance?
I did. I reviewed it with Metal on his on the Forge. I didn't like it.
Well. I've never seen a second of it. I thought, because I was working at the cinema, I could watch movies for free, and I thought maybe I'll watch it. But there was kind of other movies came out, and I just watched them, like Ant-Man Quantumania on the first day in the morning on the biggest screen in there.
The big takeaway for me from Knock at the Cabin was that Dave Bautista deserves to be in better movies. I like him a lot. He's trying his best in Knock at the Cabin, but I just don't think the story is very compelling. It's based on a book, and they change things quite a bit in ways that if you read the plot of the book, you're like, "Oh, that sounds way better." Not a big fan of that one.
Wasn't it? What's his name? Who directed it?
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes.
However you say it. I
Yes.
don't think I'll ever get it right, but it was him once again, and
I like when he does something good. I really like it. But when he does something bad, he really does it bad.
I suppose one of the things that's weird about this one compared to his other works is that there's no twist.
Oh, really?
There's no twist in this one, no. Kind of funny, actually, in a meta sense, because it's his movie, but there's no twist.
Okay, interesting.
It's just like what you're told is going to happen is what happens.
Oh.
That's it.
Okay, interesting. I don't know if I'll ever watch it.
I wouldn't. I mean, there are so many better things
to
see before it.
Oh boy, I was so pissed with Glass. I was so annoyed with it. I can't remember the last time I was that angry at a film. Because with something like TLJ, I was kind of more so confused, like what the hell did I just watch? But no, with Glass, I was just angry, like what the hell was that? Um, and yeah, since then I've just been turned off by M Night Shyamalan. But no, Ant-Man
Understandable.
Quantum
He does
Mania as
that.
well now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Quantumania. That's not a movie I would have seen were it not for Mahler saying, "Hey, watch it, and then you can come talk about it." And I was like, "Okay." It was awful. It was terrible. There's no other way to say it. One of the worst movies of the year. Uh,
hmm Definitely.
maybe. I mean, there's some other stinkers, but it's definitely one of the worst that I've seen. That's for sure.
The one underneath it, I would say, be my contender.
Oh, I
I
didn't see
actually watched.
Cocaine Bear. Yeah.
I watched Cocaine Bear instead of Knock Out the Cabin because I thought the trailers those look fun. This looks funny. This I did not laugh a single time on that movie.
That's unfortunate. You'd think it'd be such a shoe-in.
No, from the trailers again, the trailer looked great. I thought it'd be hilarious. It wasn't, and I don't understand how you do that. The title of the film is frickin' Cocaine Bear. How do you not make me chuckle at least once in this film? Painfully unfunny. Would not recommend whatsoever. I think it's directed by
Elizabeth Banks. Yeah. She
I,
don't like her. I know that much.
I just I don't understand. You need to have a talent to make a movie so painfully unfunny as something titled.
There's
Cocaine
few
Bear.
things
That's
worse
all
than
I'll
a
say.
bad comedy, honestly. So I get that.
Yeah. Complete waste of time. I was just reminded that it exists looking at this list. So thanks for that Wikipedia list. I did watch Lucifer Fallen Sun. I have watched the show. It was okay, I suppose. It wasn't bad. It's about this detective. It's a BBC series, so British Broadcasting. And Idris Elba plays it. It's good. If it's on TV, watch it. But I don't know if it's funny that it's actually on this list because I'm pretty sure it was a streaming movie. It did release in some cinemas, but yeah.
I've never heard of it.
There's also Creed 3. Have you seen that?
I liked Creed 3 more than I
Me
expected to. I've not seen either of the other two movies. I only
Okay.
like this is the perfect example of the subscription to the theater getting you to see movies you'd never see. I'm like, I didn't see 1 or 2, but fuck it, let's try 3. And I liked it. I thought it was
Yeah.
it has a good core story between Creed and Jonathan Majors' character. His friend from back when he was a kid who went to prison and is getting out, and their lives went in very different directions, and there's sort of tension between them, and that his main antagonist as a boxing opponent. That aspect of the story I thought was actually pretty darn good, and the boxing was, it was. I'm not a boxing expert, so I couldn't tell you how accurate or well filmed it was, but I enjoyed it. It worked for me. It was visceral and all that sort of fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely agree. It was a good boxing story, but I know there's a lot of Rocky fans out there who really missed Rocky in this and really wanted him in there, and I can definitely see that point. But apparently there was some falling out with Balboa and someone in the set. I don't think it was Michael Jordan himself. I think it was someone else. He just had a massive disagreement. And yeah, they made the movie without mentioning where Rocky is, what's happened to him, whatsoever.
I suppose that's weird, though I would say I think it stands on its own pretty well without him.
It's just a boxing film. Yeah.
If you're a fan of the franchise, you might wonder why he's not there if he's been important in previous films. But as a standalone thing, I actually quite liked it, and I'd recommend it. It's one of those movies that just kind of got passed over, and no one ever really talks about it. But every time I think about it, I'm like, that was a nice movie. Has some cool stuff to it.
Okay, next two movies that I've seen: Scream 8 and 65.
Scream 6.
6. I can't read.
That's all right.
I can't read
I've not
Roman
seen
numerals.
either of those, so it's all
I
you.
listen. I thought. Wait, you said that's 7, right?
That's 6.
That's
V
6.
is
Okay,
5.
so V is 5.
Yeah,
Okay, I don't know why I thought it was 8. That's interesting that I thought it
all
was
right.
8.
I forgive you.
But I watched all the Scream movies beforehand. I've never watched a Scream movie, and I just for this movie I watched all the Scream movies. Wasn't really impressed. Well, I mean, maybe like the first one was okay.
I like the first one.
Mhm.
I saw the trailers, of course, for Scream 6. I've
Mhm.
only seen the first one, and I thought, it's a pretty fun horror comedy. It's doing some satirical stuff. That's fun. Good for them. When I saw Scream 6, when I saw the trailer, I thought, this looks like the kind of movie that Scream should be making fun of, not the kind of movie that Scream should be. That's the way it
Yeah.
looked to me. It didn't look funny, didn't look fun. It just looked like generic, oh, here's the guy in the mask, he's a slasher, he's going to kill us. Was the movie funny at all?
No.
Because the first one's funny. You would think that the franchise should be about being, funny and a little like
Mm.
goofing around with tropes and things like that.
I thought it was quite crap in terms of like some of the characters, and I don't know, Scream himself. I don't know. After all these movies, I just found it tiring that it's always some random dude who is somehow very skillful at killing these. It was all very well directed, and the kills were interestingly shot. I just didn't really care all that much about the main characters.
Mm.
And like when someone once was close to dying, I was hoping they'd die off, not that they would survive or anything.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I don't know, some close friends like really wanted to see it, and I was like, fine. I guess I'll need to watch it to know what they're talking about. 'Cause so I was kind of peer pressured into it. I don't know, just I'll forget. Again, I looked at this list. Yeah, I just didn't remember. Oh, I watched that. Oh, that was a movie I've seen. You know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not really like effective use of time. Same with 65.
Yeah, I've
Trailer
heard that
looks
was
really
pretty
good.
bad.
Sam Raimi, love Sam Raimi. I'm pretty sure he directed this. Again, I forgot it existed until I looked at this list. Same with Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
Oh, that movie sucked. Yeah, that's another one that I wasn't gonna see until Mahler was like, "Hey, did you see Shazam?" And I said, I mean, I can if you want." So yeah, that one's
Yeah.
pretty bad too. I
So
don't
yeah,
know. Those are both. I get that one and Ant-Man, Quantumania. They're kind of on the same level for me, where they're just so bad. It's just total sludge movies.
you know,
Go ahead.
I think Quantumania is worse. This one's just more forgettable. I think Fury of the Gods.
Well, okay, so I think that too, but I think part of that might be because Mahler made a video about it, and it was very thorough and detailed, and so like I got the full breadth of all the things wrong with the movie. Some that I obviously noticed when I watched it, and then when we talked about it, and then some things I didn't notice until he made the video on it. Didn't get that sort of dissection for Shazam. I would imagine if you gave it the same treatment, it would be pretty
bad.
comparably bad.
Yeah.
Those are on the bottom of the movies I've seen this year. Easily. Terrible.
Yeah.
No good. Very bad.
But it's a huge step down from the first film. I mean, the first film, I don't know. I guess if I look at it deeper, there would be some flaws, but I kind of enjoyed the first one. I guess
it's got its charm, I don't think the plot is very good and all that sort of stuff, but like the gist of the plot is fine. It's a totally acceptable movie, and
like
everything that was good about Shazam ruined in this new one. So
definitely. And I was really expecting Dwayne Johnson's
Black Adam.
Black Adam to be in this, because I think I've explained this before to someone else, but with the 4 franchise, for instance, they made 4-1. That was, I enjoyed that. 4-2 was, a step down, and I feel like 4-2 and Shazam! Fury of the Gods have a lot in common. They're really forgettable movies, And so what did Marvel do with the third one? They kind of like took a risk and put in like a big character in there, Hulk, to kind of more sell tickets. And I really thought that's the strategy they would go with the second film, with putting, Black Adam in this film. But no, they just went with a completely new villain they just made up on the spot. No, I'm pretty sure these villains aren't really from the comics at all. They just puffed them out of thin air. And it really shows because there's nothing really to them. I'm pretty sure they made up a villain. I could be wrong on that.
Well, they're bad either way. That much we know for sure.
But no, I reckon Black Adam should have been in that movie, definitely. I have no idea why on earth he wouldn't be.
I think it's all his ego, right? Isn't
maybe.
that? I think he wanted his own movie. He didn't want to be a villain in another movie. He wanted to be.
I'm pretty sure he said something like he wanted his own movie and then he'd join other movies. I think that was the idea. Right. So if Dwayne says that, all right, do so, because Shazam is not going to stand on its own legs with a second movie. I mean, with the first one, it was a risk. Okay, you made some money. Why are you taking it again, hoping like the same thing is going to happen? They need to add something to it, and I don't think they really added anything. And no, it could have really used Black Adam, in my humble opinion. I don't think it'd be much better, but I think it definitely makes some more money. Maybe even profit. Who knows? John Wick 4. This was a fun popcorn flick. I think it's the best John Wick sequel, but that is not saying much. I enjoyed it, but the more I think about it, the more kind of nonsensical it gets. I was really surprised. The first thing they did, it was to kill off. What's the actor's name? Damn it, I forgot. What's the actor's name?
Is it the actor who died in real life?
Yes.
Lance Reddick.
Yes, him. And he died in the first scene instantly. And I'm like, they must have not known. Like, god damn, it was all sudden. It's just like, damn. I bet in hindsight they'd change it if they could, but no, that was really surprising. But no, I enjoyed this film. Definitely on the enjoyment scale, I put it up there. But and the music as well. It's what I use for gym music, or used rather. The music's really good. I really like the music. I like the action. Would I be opposed to a John Wick 5? I mean, whatever at this point. I guess I'll enjoy it. But I don't know, there comes a moment where you just ask yourself, how many times can John Wick get hit by a car and actually live? Because I lost count in this movie. He gets
as many times as you want, baby. As many times as Keanu Reeves will show up.
Yeah.
To do it.
I mean, I hope they have at least a good story idea, because I guess I kind of treat the John Wick sequels kind of like Transformer movies. They're really stupid, but you might enjoy the Transformers fighting and whatnot. It's kind of goofy, but real well filmed action scenes as well. I don't know if it's the fifth one. I hope they try with the story, because I hope they give John some kind of a motivation other than I just want to survive the night or the next few days. I don't know, because the first one, it's much more of a personal story of of his dog dying and him getting revenge. It's much more easier to get invested in. And here it's just, look at this action. Everyone's trying to kill him, and he's highly skilled, so he doesn't die. And he's so skilled that it kind of gets ridiculous. Like, why doesn't he die? What were your thoughts on John Wick 4?
Oh, I didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
I've not seen it, nor have I seen any of the John Wick films, believe it or not. At some point, I'll probably give the first one a shot, because I hear that's the one good one. But I haven't seen them.
I'd recommend watching through them. Definitely not a waste of your time. Like, first, bit of a warning. First one is as good as it gets.
Well, from what I've heard, I would never venture past the first one. But doesn't seem like my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. That was a pleasant surprise. It's actually
Yeah, it
quite
was
good.
better than I thought it would be. That's for sure.
Mhm.
It was kind of fun at times. There's a lot of good practical effects. Some of the jokes actually worked, which is neat.
Unlike
but-
Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, like I was, it was, I had pretty low expectations. So I was like, you know what? That was a totally fine movie that I'll probably never watch again. But hey, I had a good time,
Yeah.
and that's good enough for me.
There's also Tetris. It's
Oh,
just
I
the
like
Apple TV.
Tetris. Tetris
Yes.
is good.
I think
Forgot
it's up
about
there
Tetris.
of the best films of 2023. It's definitely a forgotten about and definitely underrated movie, but I think it's really
Yeah, I
good.
liked it. Good stuff.
From I remember when this was first announced and I read like a headline about it. I'm like, what? So is this going to be a movie about cubes falling from the sky,
Yeah.
kind of like pixels or what? But no, it was kind of like a more of a biopic of a
Yeah,
film,
about the
I suppose.
creation of Tetris.
Yeah, which is really fascinating. I suppose maybe you could do a Minecraft movie like that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, the story of the creation of Tetris is really interesting. And they do a good job of making clear, like, just how of a wild ride it was trying to get it made, trying to get the rights from the original creator, who was Russian, living in the Soviet Union. And because he lived in the Soviet Union, the rights to the game he made was owned by the state. And so it was trying to get the rights to Tetris from the Soviet Union so they could make money from the game. Really interesting story. A lot of it. I had no idea it was going to be like a Cold War espionage movie about a video game,
Yeah,
and it kind of pulled it off. So, you know, good for them.
definitely. Then we have Super Mario Brothers. Wasn't really that impressed by
No,
it.
neither was I, but it was fine. It was fine.
It was passable, I suppose.
It's
I don't
probably
know.
the most fine movie I've seen in a long time. Where I'm like, yeah, that was fine, I guess. There was nothing. Okay, so the best thing about it, other than the animation, which I do think looked great, was Jack Black. Jack Black's really good in the movie. He's really funny. Everything to do with Bowser was funny. I thought, like, you know, he sings the song and he's like longing after Princess Peach. That's all pretty funny. You know, that stuff was good. Everything else was, you know, it was fine. It was passable. It was what you would expect it to be, pretty much.
Yeah. I just found it surprising. I don't know. I can't remember the last time I saw a main character being heroic. Mario of it being. I was taken aback by it because I can't remember the last time I truly saw someone who's, you know, altruistic, looking out for their brother, that kind of stuff. And I was just like, huh, this is a good thing for families to watch, I suppose. It's just someone heroic. That's good. Not someone kind of completely awful human being and it being disguised as something good. That's what I tend to get in movies nowadays. No, it was okay, but again, I kind of forgot that I watched it. Also, there's Air, the biopic about the shoes.
Have you seen it?
Yes. And I was expecting it to be better.
Yeah, I liked the first half a lot. I like Matt Damon a lot in general. I just find him really compelling on screen, and I like the sort of idea that it follows these like product developer guys who try to get athletes signed. It doesn't follow Michael Jordan. It doesn't follow anyone with a flashier story. It's just like white guys in New Balance shoes trying to make business deals. And so that stuff was pretty fun. I like Matt Damon. I thought they lost steam by the end. They like the final scene where they finally get Michael Jordan down to try and convince him to sign. That scene fell a little flat for me, and it's like, oh, come on, you got to do a little better there. This is like the pinnacle of the movie, and it was just kind of.
I reckon they should have just cast an actor and then show his face. I thought all the weird angles was just like.
Yeah, it was distracting.
Yeah.
At a certain point, especially when you have the big scene of the movie, he's in the room and you're never cutting to him because you don't want to cast someone to play Michael Jordan.
I'm sure you could cast someone who looks really like him. Like if you're that picky about it, geez.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot to say. It wouldn't be terribly hard. You know, I didn't actually get that far in it, so I don't know if the whole thing is very good. But I watched a show with like John C. Reilly and some other people about the Lakers. Do you know what show I'm talking about? Anyway,
No,
but,
I
like,
haven't watched
they got a guy who can play Magic Johnson, and he did great. He looks enough like him. You know, it's a tall order because he's got to be really tall for one, but you know, it's doable. You can do it.
play on words, tall order, and he's tall.
Yeah,
I get
unintentional, but there it is. Yeah, so Air was, you know, Air's a good dad movie. I've heard it
Yes.
described that way, and I think it's true.
There's also I've wanted to check it out. Renfield.
It didn't look good to me. I didn't.
I was
didn't-
fascinated by the Dracula casting. That's
Yeah.
what everyone was. What was his name? Robert Kirkman. There we go. It was, I think, written by him.
Robert
Screenplay.
Kirkman, who's that?
Yeah. Walking Dead writer and of the comic as well, and Invincible writer of the comic and
Oh, okay.
show as well. Didn't watch it. Haven't. It's really gone down the memory hole. I've heard good things about Nick Cage himself, but apart from that, pretty forgettable. Next movie that I watched, The Pope's Exorcist.
Didn't see that one.
Don't.
Okay, sounds about right. You could leave
See-
it there. That says it all, I think. Honestly.
I just remember last stream when I told you when I mentioned that I had my house blessed because I was so scared of like paranormal activity.
Okay.
Remember when I said something and I said like don't treat I don't know Christianity like magic or
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah.
This movie does the exact opposite
Yeah.
of what I said. And literally by the end of it, there's just kind of like a Avengers team, like let's kill all these demons together. They're all over the globe now. It's just like
Sounds great. I don't know what you're talking about. That sounds incredible. No, I'm just kidding.
it's just like this is absolute bullshit. Like okay, Jesus did cast out demons. I suppose exorcism is a thing, but it's just it's done in such a way that I just think what a waste. You know, I just want to forget about it. I don't know. I wasn't that offended by it, but I just thought I thought it started off well, like interestingly. And Russell Crowe, he does a fine performance. And at first when I heard of this, I thought this was going to be a biopic film. Because I'm pretty sure the exorcist that he plays was a real person. But I would have never guessed that watching it. I would have just thought, oh, he's just a made-up person that you made for this film. It would have been better if this was a biopic with Russell Crowe.
More grounded sort of tone and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
And that's what I thought I was getting with the first thing, because he has to deal with this possessed guy, and you know, he has like this live pig. He gets it into this house, and he kind of provokes the devil, like, "Oh, I bet you're not strong enough even to possess this pig." And
okay, that's a weird approach, I guess.
yeah, and as soon as the devil kind of attempts to possess the pig, he kills the pig with a shotgun, and it's all kind of filmed.
Okay, weird.
Like someone killed the pig or something like that, or something, or some kind of gun. I don't know. It was filmed all very nicely and stuff like that. Very serious, very interesting dialogue, and I thought, okay, that's a eerie kind of ish way, but I thought it interested me, I suppose. And then it goes off into even more absurd and more absurd levels. But no, somewhere in the beginning of the film, it also said, like, the priest said, "Oh, this is more like theater, I suppose. This person is mentally ill, and I have to make him believe that I exorcised this demon out of him."
Oh, that's a weird thing to do. You would think for the sake of an Exorcist movie, you would just treat it as real for the sake of the story, if nothing else.
So the priest kind of like, okay, that's the interesting thing that he just kind of admitted towards the beginning when he's being like interrogated by other priests. But by the end, nope, demons are real. Quick, we need to assemble the Avengers and
Oh, okay. So is
use
he
crosses.
just saying that to sort of like assuage the concerns of
I
more
think so.
skeptical priests who are not
Yes.
like so sure? Okay,
I think so.
okay.
I think that was the idea.
That's interesting in theory, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of all over the place.
Just not to get too sidetracked, but what do you
Mhm.
make of the first, The Exorcist? Have you seen it?
I haven't.
Oh, you should. It's good.
I should. I've heard good things. I was
think
going
what-
to read the book.
Okay.
I don't know how it is, but I heard
I
it's
don't
good.
either. I haven't read it, but The Exorcist is pretty classic. I think it's really good. I think you'd enjoy it.
Okay, that's good to hear. There's also Nefarious. I've heard of this movie. I've seen it. Interesting conversations in that film.
Oh, I don't. What is that? I've never even heard of that.
Um,
Or have I? What is that? Nefarious?
yes, it's a movie by Steve Dice, I think. Yeah, it's got Sean Patrick. Yeah. It's this one, and it's about this guy who's been possessed by a demon, and he's about to be sentenced to death, and he has this conversation with a psychiatrist, and they kind of like have some theological discussions and stuff like that, and the demon kind of has to prove that he's an actual demon. Some interesting dialogue, but I think it's a little on the preachy side. I think
Okay.
there is, at its core, this movie does have something unique. It's an indie movie. It's very cheap, very very low budget from what I know.
Oh, okay. I've seen a trailer for this.
I did hear about it. At its core, it's got potential, but I don't think the execution was as smooth as it could have been. I think if the screenplay had a little more drafts, it would have been certainly a lot less preachy and stuff.
Is it
I don't know.
is it like an explicitly Christian movie, like made by a Christian production company type thing?
Yes,
Okay.
but I think I've seen a lot of Christian movies. They're all
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah,
This
that's
is kind of
unfortunately true. Same with a lot of Christian music, unfortunately.
yeah.
At least the movies and music that are like trying really hard to be capital
Yeah.
C Christian. Yeah.
Yes. The thing about this one, I think this one actually tries.
Okay. It gets a little higher off the ground than some of the other ones.
I certainly enjoyed it more than the Pope's Exorcist. I'll tell you
Okay.
that much.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think there is stuff to improve. I think it could have been better, but it's definitely not the worst Christian movie I've ever seen.
that's
I
good.
think the best Christian, what's the best? Maybe Passion of Christ, or The Silence by Martin Scorsese. That was good as well. I don't know what I'd choose. I'd need a list for that.
I've thought about at some point trying to go back and watch. Well, go back. I've never seen them, but go watch some of those old school biblical epic movies like the Ten Commandments and stuff like that. Have you seen many of those? I haven't. I know sometimes they're on TV and stuff, so I've probably seen clips, but like back in let's say like the 40s, 50s, maybe even into the 60s.
That'd be
They
way
made a
past.
decent amount of sort of
The oldest thing
biblical
I think I
epics.
watched would be Ben-Hur.
Yeah,
old
yeah.
one.
Is that good? I haven't seen it.
From what I remember, I don't remember hating it. I know the recent one is shit with
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman. No, it's definitely a huge spectacle. No, the original Ben-Hur, much better film. From what I remember, I haven't watched it in a while.
Gotcha.
Can't
Yeah, I've been
remember that
thinking
much.
about trying to revisit some of those and see what that's all about. Because I've always felt like there's a number of biblical stories that would make for good movies if they
Yes.
weren't in like low budget, preachy indie Christian
Yes.
studio hands, or in the hands of like super high budget, like sleek Hollywood productions, but made by people who don't really care or respect the story and want to change it for the sake of being original. Something like Noah, the what's it called?
With Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh God, what's the name of the director? I'm blanking on it right now. Anyway,
Did he direct the drug movie? What's it called?
Requiem for a Dream.
Did he
Darren
direct that?
Aronofsky is his name.
Mhm.
Yeah, that from what I understand pissed a lot of people
Wait.
off because he took the Noah story and then like kind of completely changed it to suit his own interests, which seems like
Didn't he direct Mother with Jennifer Lawrence?
yes. I haven't seen that.
Okay.
But
I heard that was kind of out there as well.
Yeah, so I feel like there's a lot of biblical stories that are they're given one of two treatments. They're either handled by sort of much more high profile Hollywood writers and directors, and they're given a lot of money, but they're like subverted or changed in ways that upset people, or they're made by sort of low budget Christian production companies whose goal seems to be primarily to convert people rather than to like
show a character story,
all that sort of stuff. And that always felt unfortunate to me. So I'm kind of curious if they were any better, the biblical movies, if you go back.
There is a lot of stuff you can make into fantastic movies from the Bible.
I've always felt that if you were going to start somewhere, you might start with someone like David. That seems he has a very human story that's easy for people to understand and like see as a sort of like rise and fall type arc, you know?
Yeah. I'd be probably seeing Prince of Egypt.
Yes. Oh, that's a good one.
That's definitely up there. I would you classify that as a musical? It does have music in it and people
like
singing.
A lot of the 90s, especially it's not Disney obviously, but it was doing a lot of similar things as the Disney Renaissance musicals. There are songs in the beginning, and then once the plot really gets cooking, the songs disappear. You know, Mulan does that, The Lion King does that. A lot of those movies, they'll have songs in the beginning, but when the plot really starts getting serious, they stop the songs. So I would call that a musical. There are characters that sing in it, you know. I can't remember how deep into the story people singing songs goes. Because there's the Deliver Us, which is a really great opener. I believe that's what it's called. Anyway, there's the song that his mother sings to her as she puts him in the basket. That's a really good song. I can't remember when the song stopped, but I want to say that there's enough that I would call it a musical. Yeah.
I would cut off my own leg for just another movie like Prince of Egypt. It is so beautiful. One of the best.
Yeah, it's very well animated too, and the music is what really sells it for me. The music in that movie is pretty stellar.
Yep. Guy Ritchie's Covenant. Have you seen that or heard of that?
I haven't. I thought about it. It was on the like maybe, you know, for me.
Watching it, I would have never guessed it was a Guy Ritchie movie. It's a pretty good movie about, you know, brotherhood, trusting in a person you wouldn't really initially trust, kind of like a Good Samaritan story, I suppose, in a way. No, it's pretty good. 7 out of 10. Definitely not a waste of time to see.
That's good.
It's about like this war.
I do like Jake Gyllenhaal a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Good actor. Also, we have Peter Pan and Wendy on Disney Plus.
I didn't bother with that one, but I did watch what's his name, the Little Platoon's review, and that was enough for me.
How was that?
Oh, he has a really good, I would say, scathing review of Peter Pan and Wendy on his channel that you should check out. And I could, you know, based on how he described the movie and how it looks and the scenes he plays, I'm totally with him. I was like, nope, I do not need to see that. I don't need to see girl boss Wendy. You know, like that's not. He does a really good job, the Little Platoon, of sort of arguing just how catastrophically they misunderstood the original story in trying to improve the Peter Pan story to make Wendy more of a strong female character. They kind of ignored how she's the central character already and what kind of holds the whole story together. She's already an incredibly strong female character in the original, and they do this sort of cheapest, laziest, most current year way of trying to make her into a girl boss type character, and it's just insufferable. So he does a really good job of making that argument quite clear.
Yeah. Peter Pan and Wendy. That's just okay. Wendy's now in the title. Yippee. No, it's on Disney Plus. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, it didn't even go to theaters, so they did not feel too confident in that one. You can tell.
Yeah. Sisu. I like that movie. Really liked it. Very simple. About a gold miner Finnish commando who basically kills a lot of Yahtzees just to get his gold in the bank. Very simple plot. Very good action. Would recommend. It's definitely a decent flick. I don't think I watched it in cinemas. But yeah, I'm sure it's streaming out there somewhere.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
And then we have Guardians 3, which I don't know. I think looking back on Guardians 3, I was really anticipating this movie to be really good. I don't think it was as good as I expected it to be. I think there's some really, really good parts in that film, but I just found like characters like Drax and Mantis really difficult sometimes to watch. I just sometimes did not find them funny at all. There was some jokes that I guess I laughed at, but most of the time I just didn't find it as funny as I guess the movie found itself funnier than it actually is. And at times it was really dark. Those scenes were really engaging. But yeah, I know you have some mixed thoughts as well.
When I came out of the movie, I was like, you know what? I can tell that there's problems, but I liked it. And then I went on EFAP and I came in like as the only one who liked it at all. And then as we talked through the entire movie, by the end, I'm like, yeah, that kind of sucked. Actually, you can if you want to see the arc of my opinion of that movie just dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. So I'm like upset by the end. That's what happened in that. There's a small percentage of things in the movie that I think hold up pretty well. And it's basically everything to do with Rocket's backstory. I think that stuff is actually pretty great. I still really like that stuff. Almost everything else falls apart for me. There's some jokes that I still think are funny. Some that don't make a ton of sense if you think about them too much, but some that hold up. I think the backstory with Rocket was far and away the best part of the movie, and then everything else I've soured on quite a bit, to the point that I'm like, I don't think I'd ever want to rewatch it. I think it would just make me mad. I felt tricked by it, that I was like, oh, that was fun, and then the more you think about it, you're like, no, but that doesn't work, and that doesn't work, and that's stupid, and that kind of ruins her character, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and this movie was meant to release as well, like a long time ago, but with the whole James Gunn firing, I wonder if it would have been really any different if this movie came out earlier. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose. Next movie that I've seen on this list, Hypnotic.
Oh, did you see Hypnotic too? I saw that.
Oh yeah,
it was bad. It was a bad movie.
It's what would I describe it to? It's
kind
like
of an old school bad movie. It's the kind of bad you don't see as much anymore. I don't know. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah. You know what? I'll make an analogy. It's like the retarded cousin of Inception.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, I can see that. Where there was a whole string of these type of movies where there's this shady group kind of watching everything and controlling things behind the scenes. There's a lot of these that happened in I want to say the 2000s, maybe the 2010s. I know there was at least one of these movies with Matt Damon and I think Emily Blunt where he's a politician and he meets these guys who are overseeing everything and are secretly the ones pulling the strings. And I don't know. Hypnotic is a bizarre kind of twisty, surprising sci-fi movie that you only discover later. You're like, what the fuck is this? They don't make these kind of bad movies anymore.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I get it. You tried to be like mind twisting and all stuff like that, but it's just like, why would they go with a cop story out of
yeah,
all the things they could have went with that would have been more manipulative? And it's just like, okay,
they pulled so many
whatever.
rugs out from under you over the course
Yeah.
of the movie that by the end you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think it was well thought out at
no,
all.
and I don't think it's quite bad enough to be funny consistently. There are moments that are pretty funny bad. I don't know what Ben Affleck is doing in this movie. He's too good for it, but he might be here on a favor for Robert Rodriguez or whoever's directing it. It's
I watched the movie because, like, okay, interesting captain. Like, it's Ben Affleck. You know, he's a talented actor. He's trying to find his daughter. It's just like, okay, I'll watch this on the internet. Whatever, looks kind of interesting. And it's just like, by the end of it, it was just like, oh, that thing that kind of got you to check it out in the first place, not a thing.
Wasn't
actually.
real.
It's just like,
Yeah, it's pretty dumb.
Fast X. Unfortunately, I watched this. And there's going to be a part 2 to it, I'm pretty sure. It ends on a cliffhanger, right? Yeah, it does. Whatever. I mean, Jason Momoa was fun as a villain.
I've heard he's hamming it up a lot in that one.
Yeah, but in a fun way. Like, he's by far the most entertaining thing in this. He acts like Jason Momoa, you know? But I kind of like it. I heard that even Vin Diesel was kind of annoyed at him for kind of taking the spotlight.
Well, these are a vanity project for Vin Diesel at this point, so I guess that doesn't surprise me too much.
I mean, he had the same thing with Dwayne Johnson as well. I'm pretty sure Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel had a falling out as well. Don't care about the next part. I don't know why I watched it. Yeah, next movie. Well, there was a Little Mermaid.
I didn't see it. I didn't bother.
No one's gonna force me to see it. Are you kidding me? After the singing of the seagull.
Oh yeah,
Hell no.
Some of those scenes out of context were pretty hilariously bad.
Yep.
Yeah, it looked bad. Didn't look interesting at all.
Next movie I've seen: Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
That's an interesting film. I'll go first. Why not? So
Yeah.
I watched it again before the new one came out. I still really like the first one. Into the Spider-Verse holds up. Really, really solid movie.
It holds up more. Yeah.
Yes, and I think other than maybe, you know what? Actually, no. I think in every way, Across the Spider-Verse is a step down. That doesn't mean it's bad, but I think literally every aspect I enjoyed less this time. The character, the action, the dialogue, the pacing, the music, the animation even. I didn't think the animation was much better. Not enough. Some of the art style stuff was a little distracting, actually. But it's hard to say exactly how good the movie is because it's not over. It's not a whole story. That was easily the most frustrating part of it, is that it's not a complete story. So I'm like, well, I don't even know whether it's good yet because we haven't resolved any real major conflicts at all. So I don't know if this character is going to be turned out, like if they're going to turn out to be right about, you know, the whole, oh God, what's it called? What do they call it? There's this whole premise to the conflict where
Canon
events. Thank you. Whether they're like that's going to be a lie, I suspect it will be proven to be a lie at the end. But there's so many things up in the air that I don't even know how to judge it really. Yeah. Except to say that I didn't like it as much as the first one.
I reckon they're gonna chicken out of killing the father. You know, just to kind of spite the future Spider-Man. Like, oh, he wasn't right. You know, he's you know, he doesn't have any point. That's what I'm afraid of. They'll go with.
Well,
I think
personally, I don't like the canon event idea at all. I think it's really stupid. And so if it turns out to be that the canon event thing isn't real and isn't true, at least in the logic of the story, that'll make more sense. But it also feels, this movie, way more than the first one, like it's trying really hard to like do a meta critique of people like Nerdrotic. And I found that really like, what are you doing? Like, why are you so desperate to
Stop
stick it to them?
reading Twitter.
Yeah,
and just write a story.
That's how it felt. It devoted way too much of its time to making meta commentary about whether you're supposed to call him Spider-Man or Miles Morales or not, instead of just focusing on telling a good story.
You've hit the nail on the head. Yep.
That was a frustration I had with it. We'll see how they resolve some of these conflicts. It'll kind of depend on what they do in the next movie. But I will say, like, watching, I couldn't believe that it was kind of rather significantly longer than the first movie and still didn't tell the whole story.
Yeah.
The movie's bloated. There's really there's no other way to say it. There's fat that needs to be trimmed. And I feel like I would have preferred a 3-hour movie of both halves of the story where you trim the fat than 2 hours and what is it? 2 hours and 20 minutes, something like that. Yeah, 2 of those. It's gonna. I know that the next one's gonna be really bloated too. It'll have to be, because we've gotten essentially to the crisis point of the story. Okay, so if we think of Across the Spider-Verse and was it the next one, Beyond? Is that what they're going to call it? Okay,
I think it's Beyond.
We look at that as one story because it is. Where we've stopped in the story is like roughly 2/3. Typically, it's around the crisis point, 2/3 to 3/4 even. Like when everyone's at their low point, they're furthest. The main character is furthest away from his goal. That's where we end this movie. It's a good cliffhanger if you're into the story because you want to know what happens next. He's at the furthest point away from his goal. This is like 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the story. So if the next movie is the same length, it's going to be even more bloated, like by necessity, because there's not even a whole lot of ground to cover left.
What if it's just 90 minutes? That'd be just hilarious.
That'd be pretty funny. There's no way. It'll probably be even longer with even more stuff that probably could have been cut.
Yeah. What I meant with my criticism is just like, because you said you don't like the canon stuff. Yeah, I get that. Like, yeah, I don't like the canon stuff too necessarily, that everything's predetermined. But I think what I meant by that was like they're going to go with, oh no, Miles was right the entire time. He's the most virtuous one out of all the Spider-Man, even though this canon thing, I think it's fundamentally something, like if you want to do kind of like this story of certain events in the multiverse being unchanged and you have to deal with it, I think the Spider-Man character is the stupidest one to put into that story, because that's not what Spider-Man would go out of his way to save people. He wouldn't stop some canon event to stop him. And I think all these Spider-Man are just siding with the future Spider-Man is just dumb.
I agree. I think it makes them it makes them stupid. I think it makes almost all of them pretty stupid. But especially the sort of Peter Parker who's in the first movie, but also Gwen. I think I can understand why. Oh God, I don't remember his name. The Oscar Isaac one. I can understand why he thinks that. Maybe, Miguel. For his own personal backstory reasons, why he's convinced this is true, maybe. But everyone else who just believes him without any evidence, I'm like, this is a ridiculous premise. I mean, think about what the premise implies, that if you don't let this person die, your whole universe will collapse. What the fuck? Who would believe that? That's so ridiculous. You would need proof. Otherwise, you'd be like, no, I'm going to save this person. I'm not going to not save someone because I think not saving them will somehow destroy the universe. That's ridiculous. So, kind of goes against what, if you're arguing there are core essential traits that are necessary for someone to be Spider-Man, you would think the desire to help people in need would be one of them. And that would be such a strong part of it that all these other people wouldn't go along with this stupid canon event idea. So I agree with you. I think it makes a lot of the other Spider-Man stupid. Yeah.
And the reason why these character deaths happen, like Miles' father dies or Uncle Ben dies, is that's kind of the event that kind of makes them into a Spider-Man, kind of makes them realize, oh, I gotta help people. It's just like, okay, Miles is already
he's already had
Spider-Man. Why does his dad need to die?
He's already had that with his uncle.
Yeah,
right. And so there's a couple things. This whole canon event thing
Why does it need to be canon as well? It's just
Well,
that's I think
the
what I'm
whole
getting.
idea of it in the story as a mechanic that will destroy the universe if you don't follow these predetermined things. It's so obviously stupid.
Yes. When
But
you put it on its surface like that,
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, that is stupid.
in a meta sense, it's also kind of misguided, I would say. It seems like they're trying so hard to make a point they already made in the first movie. Is that like it's sort of like the multiplicity of the things that you could all call Spider-Man, right? Like, like it's an exploration, essentially, the first movie, about like, well, is this person really is like noir Spider-Man still Spider-Man? Is like, all these is Miles Morales still Spider-Man, even though he's different? He has like, what does it mean to be Spider-Man? And it's a sort of core set of traits and abilities, typically. Right. And usually some sort of formative event that's similar. Right. But obviously there's variation. Right. The movie is very much like anyone could be Spider-Man if they were bitten by the spider and they like took it upon themselves to use the power responsibly. That's all it really takes to sort of fit the mold. And in this movie, they're trying so hard to make that point again, but even more clumsy and ham-fisted, where now it's like, the universe will explode if you don't fit very neatly into what it means to be Spider-Man. And then the resolution of the movie is definitely going to be, no, you don't have to fit neatly into it. It's like, yeah, we already did that. That was what the first movie was.
And they did it in a much shorter time as well and less ham-fisted. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they weren't so concerned with it. Clearly really annoys the writers that people...
Yeah, they're very insecure about it. Yeah.
They're very insecure about Miles Morales being called Spider-Man. And it's just like, I don't know why you're so hung up on this point. Like, people like Miles Morales in that first movie. People will still probably think of Peter Parker when they hear Spider-Man. This is not a problem for you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why you're so insistent on this. Like, no, he's also Spider-Man. It's like, okay, who cares?
Exactly. Yeah, I very much so agree with you.
So I found a lot of it frustrating. I thought a lot of the jokes and stuff didn't work quite as well as the first movie, and so I'm not especially excited for the next one. But I'll watch it because I want to know what the complete story is. Finally,
yes, and you won't see it in a very long time. It looks like, because they haven't even done any voicing for it, which is weird.
No,
like I'm pretty sure there was a recent article where, what's his name, Ben Johnson or something like that. I can't remember his name, the actor's name. That was Peter B. Bucker. Yeah, he said like he's only just now doing voices for the film. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I mean, maybe.
Well, I know there was
some stuff like that.
There was some controversy around how the animators were treated last time around. So I imagine they're going to try to avoid that sort of negative press. And if that means taking way longer to do it, that's probably what's going to happen.
Yep.
Which is probably for the best, because if those stories are true and they seemed believable, part of the problem seemed to be that one of the two directors, I don't remember which one. Actually, I think there's three directors, but one of those three, who was the most hands-on, has a habit of changing his mind constantly. And like... if I understand correctly, he would want to see full animatics in the cut in order to make editing decisions, rather than making editing decisions based on, more rough sketches. So basically, you'd have to animate the whole thing pretty close to full, and then he would decide to cut it. You know what I mean? And so he wasted a lot of time and people's energy and efforts, and so they really didn't like that. And that stems to the same problem when I talked about the Russo brothers. So why people don't love working for them is the indecisiveness, the inability to make decisions ahead of time and stick to it. I think that way of working led to some problems in terms of morale and all that sort of stuff. So I'll probably want to avoid that negative press next time around.
Next film. I'm trying to get through these now.
We're
halfway through. Sorry that's taking so long. Yeah. The Flash.
Didn't see it. Heard it was terrible. It looked terrible, and I was like, nope, not for me. No thanks. What's worse than one Ezra Miller? Ezra Miller is two Ezra Millers. Yeah, I can't believe instead of recasting him, they doubled down and made two of them. That's so funny.
Yeah, my gift codes that make the ticket really cheap. I remember that's when I found out, like, oh, this gift thing only works on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and I had to pay for the full ticket, and I was like, for fuck's sake.
On that movie of all movies, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only thing I remember getting angry about. The rest of it, I was just, what the hell? I was expecting this to be a reboot of sorts, of this being kind of like a launch pad for whatever James Gunn is doing, but it wasn't that at all.
At least that means Ezra Miller won't be in the future of the DC. That's probably the only positive takeaway here.
Yes.
Is that it didn't that it did so poorly that there's no way they'd keep him around.
Yeah, I'd be fascinated to see some of the other cuts of this film, because I heard that Christian Bale was in this.
I don't know.
Listen, I know the Nolan Batman trilogy is definitely has some weak points, especially Dark Knight Rises. I don't know why I called it Returns. And that movie has some problems, but I love the Nolan Batman trilogy. I really liked Christian Bale, so I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll see Christian Bale in it. Instead, I saw George Clooney at the end, and I was like, hang on, is this a joke? Because I don't really find it funny.
I think in one sense, I think you should be a little glad that Christian Bale didn't show up, because at least they couldn't ruin him, right?
I suppose that's right.
That's the saving grace for a lot of these extended universes now that are running on fumes or dying a slow death. It's like, well, if they don't bring back a character you like, at least they won't ruin him.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But yeah, Elemental. I haven't seen that. I don't suppose you've seen Elemental either.
I've seen Asteroid City.
How was that?
Asteroid City was probably my least favorite Wes Anderson movie. I thought it was okay. So I'll be brief. I really like some of his movies. I think Fantastic Mr. Fox and Moonrise Kingdom.
I need to rewatch that. Yeah.
For example, are great movies, and I think even at his worst, like, he's still pretty good. Asteroid City was the worst I've seen, and it was probably like it was so boring. It was so boring. It was like the worst and least engaging story he's ever told in a movie either. It's like all his worst or most excessive sort of like idiosyncrasies all combined in the service of telling one of the least interesting stories he's ever told. I was very disappointed by it. Did not like it all that much. It has little moments of like, oh, that's kind of fun, but like overall, pretty big disappointment.
Yeah.
I also saw The Blackening, which I hoped would be like a black Scream. It was really bad. It was really bad. It was way too woke, for lack of a better word, to just be a fun horror movie about like black horror tropes. It was way too sort of like preachy.
Oh, I feel
and lame.
Well, Extraction 2 was pretty good. I've seen that. I thought it was definitely, it wasn't as good as the first, but I think it was definitely action packed. Again, the infamous Joe Russo, the Russo brothers directed it. But no, I thought it was pretty decent. Action flick, kind of in a John Wick vein. Any other movies that I've seen here? No, I guess it's just Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny.
I didn't see that. I heard it was bad from people I like, and I was like, nope, that's fine. I don't need to see that.
I sailed the seas for it and reviewed it on a live stream, and it's pretty, but it's definitely up there in the worst of the 2023. Definitely up there. Now, I expected it to be bad, but it
even surprised you. It translated. Yeah.
Because again, after all, it's James Mangold. You know, the guy has some talent. I mean, surely, with a guy like that behind the wheel, it'll be something. And it's just like, no, not really. It didn't help at all. I think it'd be any other director. It'd be just as bad. At first I was just like, wow, that was bad. And as I watched like Muller's live stream on it, and the more people I heard from it, I was just like, no, this was really terrible, really contrived plot. And at the end of the day, they're trying to save Hitler. That's basically the plot.
They gotta just let Indiana Jones die. Just let it be done. Just put it out of its misery.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was pleasantly surprised by it. I was expecting a kind of, again, preachy movie. Kind of, like we talked about the Christian movie. It's kind of like, yeah.
It wasn't as preachy as you might have expected. It definitely was not as
polished.
Definitely not as politically charged as everyone. Everyone was not everyone, but people on the left, especially in the media, were acting like it was. I thought it was going to be. I thought it was basically going to be like a conspiracy about how the world is run by pedophiles, but it really wasn't. It's just like, well, there are predators out there and they're bad, and the good guys got to go stop them. And I'm like, this is fun. This is very fun is not the right word, but it's engaging and compelling. Yes. And I thought, it's a bit ham-fisted. I think in the final act, it kind of goes. I thought it might have been better if it ended after the raid that that is successful but not as successful as he hoped, and like that might be a good way of ending with a sort of like, it was, I don't know, that felt more real, and then the final act was a little too Rambo for my tastes. It didn't quite feel like the same movie.
As soon as the bullets went flying to the truck, I'm like, they would have been dead. Like, come on.
It goes a little too far. It's a little clumsy and ham-fisted, which I would say I wish it was a little bit more subtle and sophisticated and mature for the sake of the message that I agree with and support.
Trafficking, bad.
Yeah, it's quite simple, really. It's one of the things I remember
QAnon conspiracy, Pizzagate.
Thinking and seeing the reaction to it was just like, man, you can't let yourself be so tribal that you instinctively hate anything the other side stands for. It's a bad look, because sometimes the other side, so to speak, of the culture war, of the political spectrum, are going to say obviously true things, and it's kind of incumbent on you to agree, or not that you need to agree and voice your opinion on everything, but like, man, you can't be against everything the other side is for. And that goes for both sides.
Just because it's that side.
It's such a bad look. It's such a bad look to be so up in arms about what is a very simple and it's like hard to disagree with movie.
Yep.
There were some very suspect responses to this movie, and it was not nearly as it was not as controversial as everyone was making out to be.
I'm pretty sure one or two writers who slammed this movie
turned out to be pedophiles. Yeah, that was a real thing that happened. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh man. Sometimes real life is pretty good writing. I'll just say that.
I might put that on the shirt. Okay. I lost it now.
Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yes.
That was a disappointment.
Yes.
I've talked a lot about it on whatever stream. I think it was Metal's stream that I was on. But yeah, it was pretty disappointing. It's another movie. I can't believe there were 3 of them this year that weren't even full stories, because they were part 1. So this, Across the Spider-Verse, and Rebel Moon being the 3. You know what I mean?
Good God. Wait, no, Rebel Moon as well.
Yeah, so three pretty high-profile action adventure movies that aren't even a whole story. You know what I mean? I don't love that.
No, I don't.
So yeah, I was pretty disappointed.
I don't reckon we'll.
But that's about it.
Yeah, I don't reckon we'll see part 2 in a while. Which is
No.
a shame. Barbie, I think we kind of talked about during the podcast.
Yeah, we can skip that one.
Oppenheimer, I guess we could mention. I'm surprised that made so much money.
Yeah, me too. I definitely think the Barbenheimer meme helped the movie quite a bit.
And I guess they watched Oppenheimer and they're like, oh, you know what? We'll watch it again, and good word of mouth, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I liked about half of the movie and then didn't like about half of the movie. I thought it was too long. And so if the shortest possible version is that the movie kind of sets up two threads. One, because it's obsessed with its Prometheus metaphor. So step one, or one aspect of part one of the movie is the developing of the atomic bomb. That's the sort of metaphorically, that's Prometheus bringing fire down to humanity, the discovering of this new technology and its devastating impact, all that sort of stuff. And the story around the creation of the bomb is very interesting, and getting the team together, all that sort of stuff, building up to the Trinity test. I'm like, yes, I'm into this movie. I like this movie. The other movie that shares screen time with the movie I like is the movie about his interrogation after the fact, in which the film presents it as if it's metaphorically comparable to being picked, like having your liver picked out every day forever, which is what happens in Prometheus. I think that aspect of the story was easily the weakest part, in no small part because the questions they were asking him about his allegiances and stuff like that are good, important questions that needed to be asked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why, you know, like the movie presents it as if it was sort of like an unjust,
Dude,
like a McCarthyist sort of thing. But a lot of the questions they were asking, as sort of forceful as they were about it, I'm like, no, but these are important questions, actually. You know, and they're right to ask it, and they probably should know whether you're a communist or not, because we're
making the atomic bomb of all things.
Yeah, and you know, so that aspect of the story was much weaker, and of course, the movie is just filled with a number of kind of, I think, rather embarrassing decisions. One embarrassing decision is to include the "I am become death, destroyer of worlds" line during the sex scene. It's like, that was so cringe, for lack of a better word.
I really thought we'd get the clip that Oppenheimer is known for. I thought we would get that in the film. No, it's nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, instead he says it while like putting it back in Florence Pugh, and I'm like, what are you doing, movie? Like, this doesn't. I mean, like, okay, so like, just to really hammer it home, right? They're in the middle of having sex. She stops to go walk over to his bookshelf. He was like, I see you like books.
Opens a random page.
Opens a random page, happens to be that clip, and he's like, read it to me as I hop back on top of you. It's so juvenile and strange that you would do it like this. There's no way that happened. I don't believe you for a second. And it's just really embarrassing. I you know, so the movie has a few of those where I'm just like, man, this is that. It made me roll my eyes really hard. I think there's a lot of good stuff. I think once again, Matt Damon was my favorite part. I like Matt Damon trying to force him to put the team together, and all his concerns about trying to beat the Nazis to the atomic bomb. I like all that stuff. The Trinity test was worth the wait. And then there's like 45 minutes to an hour of the movie left. That's all about the trial, which is easily the most boring part. And I thought the pacing was terrible, essentially. I had a lot of mixed feelings about it. I don't understand why people love it as much as they do.
Yeah, I am in full agreement with you. That's exactly what I thought. Going into this movie, I can't talk. I really thought it'd be a lot more effective with its footage. You know, I thought it'd tell more of a coherent story. But I completely agree with you that all the interrogation scenes were kind of unnecessary, really.
Or they, you know, there are parts of the movie that they breeze through so quickly and treat as like, you know, important, but like we see it in a montage sort of thing. Meanwhile, this investigation at the end is treated as the real climax of the story. No, it isn't.
No,
the Trinity test is the real climax, and then the fallout after it, no pun intended, is the end of the story. And then there's just another 45 minutes of this stupid trial. It's not even a trial. It's
not as engaging as the Trinity test, and the scene where he pictures what his bomb would do to people. Maybe you could end it around somewhere there with maybe him saying like that they did destroy the world. I think that's how it ends. Like, somewhere around there with that scene.
With Eisenhower, Einstein. You could end it. It's not Eisenhower. Sorry, Einstein. You could end it around there. People
have been saying that Robert Downey Jr. was great in this movie. I was really confused as to his role in the film. Like, I guess he's the villain, antagonist kind of thing.
Yeah, ostensibly. Yeah.
But I didn't understand like all the politics of it, all
The movie
what was his
essentially-
problem and kind of thing. I
Well,
didn't care
Yeah,
as well.
well, he was kind of petty
Uh-huh.
and ego driven, among other things, and he sort of spurs on what the movie presents as the horribly unjust persecution of Oppenheimer. But really, I'm like, all the questions they're asking are actually super relevant and important, and they were right to do it, actually. And actually, they treated him rather fairly, all things considered. So even if it was spurred on by this petty, ego-driven man, so what?
Yeah, and
I thought he
really,
I thought he performed well, but
Yeah.
nothing. I wasn't wowed by it.
yeah, and all they really did, well, from what I remember, was like take his license
Security
away
grants,
or something like that. Yeah, security grants. It's just like, oh, okay.
Like, that seems reasonable, actually. He's
So, so wait, you're not taking like all his money, all his house, or
no, he's not going to jail. He's not even. He doesn't
No.
really have his reputation ruined either.
Yeah, he can. I'm pretty sure he like did like loads of lectures and kind of that, and sold
Yeah.
books and kind of.
Basically, he's like, I'm not for making the hydrogen bomb, and they're like, why not? And essentially, part of the reason is that he doesn't see the communists as severe a threat as he did the Nazis, and it's partly because he has some communist sympathies. And so it's like, okay, well, it kind of makes sense that you don't have high level security clearance anymore. Sorry, like
Yeah.
that seems reasonable, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the movie
No,
tries to make it into a tragedy that doesn't quite work.
yes, I'm in full agreement with you. I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks what you think. No, definitely. I definitely think it could have been a smoother of a ride for me. I expected more from it. I expected
Yeah, I had
the bomb
hope.
stuff, really, not really the politics of it. That's not really what interests me. I really liked the start of it as well, kind of him imagining in school all these little, I don't know, reactions in physics, and
Yeah, some of
that
that
kind
stuff
of got
was
me.
filmed in a really interesting way and made
Yeah.
for like really interesting editing.
Yeah. Let's see. The Meg 2, they made a sequel to that. Wow. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I haven't seen that.
No,
Don't suppose it was any good.
I've heard some people say it's good, but it was no one who I really trust. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen people say it's good. I'm like, but I don't know if I trust your takes. So I haven't seen it, but maybe it's good. I have seen The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Yes, I remember you telling me that last
That
week.
was pretty disappointing. Didn't like it. I
It's
just
gonna-
finished. I'm almost finished reading Dracula for the first time. Much better.
Oh, nice.
I mean, obviously, the Last Voyage of the Demeter is supposed to be a small section of that overall story zoomed in on, but I thought they handled it really poorly, essentially.
Yep. I thought that was a different movie. Let's see here. Inside Man. Don't see much here now. Gran Turismo. That's something I watched.
Oh yeah,
Again, I seem to watch a lot of car movies this year.
yeah.
It wasn't bad.
That's how I feel about it too. It was like there was some good stuff in it, but I'll never see it again. I was really impressed with David Harbour. He kind of carries the movie, I think. Stranger Things guy.
Yep.
Some of the
He's a really
driving
good actor.
sequences were really cool. I didn't really love the main character, but
No, me
the
either.
real
Yeah.
life story is interesting. Some of the driving's cool, and I like the coach. So it's all right. It's got some good stuff.
Yeah, it's fine.
I found the sort of strategy and the things going wrong and all that sort of stuff, the conflict with the racing itself, pretty compelling in the movie, which is a good thing because I'm not a big racing fan, so that it gripped me like that, I was pleasantly surprised by.
Equalizer 3. I watched this one in cinemas, and I liked it. It definitely felt more like a Western film. There were parts of it I really liked. Parts of it I was just like, meh. Okay, whatever. I think it's definitely the best Equalizer sequel, but I still think the first one is probably the best. With the second one, whatever. I wouldn't really take it or leave it. But then again, I don't imagine myself watching it again. Kind of like Gran Turismo,
Yeah.
even though there are some scenes that I really liked in it. Let's see, what have we here? A Haunting in Venice.
I didn't see that one.
I don't know how they keep making these, because I'm pretty sure these keep losing money.
Yeah, I don't know. I know they're sort of okay. So I know that this is another one of those Agatha Christie adaptations where Kenneth
Yes.
Branagh plays the sort of main detective who's in a number of her novels. Is it the Murder on the Orient Express? Is that one?
Yes.
Death of the Nile, I think, and then now
Yep.
A Haunting
Death
in
on the
Venice.
Nile was what the hell. With
Yeah,
Gal
I've
Gadot
heard that this
acting at it.
one is better than the Death of the Nile, and that it has kind of a different tone. Is that right?
Yes, it's not a high bar,
Yeah.
but I definitely would say it's better than Death on the Nile. Again, like with Gran Turismo, I don't think I'd ever watch it again. It's definitely the best out of the Agatha Christie adaptations. Definitely better visuals, like more interesting, more interestingly done overall, with the main character and his arc, and him being just defeated with the life of the detective. There's definitely some good aspects to it, but then again, wouldn't really pick it up again. The next movie that I've seen here, this thing is about
The GameStop
yes,
stock thing. Yeah.
I need to
didn't
watch
see it.
that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. It didn't look amazing, but I didn't. I also didn't hear anything about it, so I have no idea.
Yeah. The thing is, it was. I've seen commercials for it everywhere and posters, right? It's just like I have no idea what this film is about. I remember some YouTuber that I listened to like, oh, that's about the GameStop thing. I'm like, oh, why not just name it GameStop or something? Because I never associated the two with, this big, crazy event in time in history,
Yeah.
I suppose. And this movie is just like, okay, you should have kind of advertised this better. I'm sure people still remember what happened with the whole GameStop thing. I don't know. I'll probably give it a watch. I'd be interested what they would do, because I only know some details about the thing, and I'd be interested to know more details. I'm pretty sure the Internet Historian is making a video on that. Still a work in progress. We might see that much later in the future. So that's
One of the things that
something to
put
look
me
forward
off
to, I
seeing
suppose.
it was Seth Rogen at the helm of it.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, maybe if someone else made this movie, because there's a movie I watched this year. I don't know where it will be on this list, if we passed it already or what. But a movie called Blackberry, which is a
Yes, I've heard of that.
social network type biopic movie about the creation and the history of BlackBerry, but it's like a comedy through and through. And it has Jay, I think Baruchel is how you say his name. It also has Glenn Howerton, who played Dennis in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The movie's really funny. Like, it just really works as a comedy. And so I was like, if someone like that made Dumb Money, I might be more interested. But that it's Seth Rogen, I'm like, I don't think I've found him funny in years.
Yeah, he made a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie as well, and that's why
True.
I'm skeptical of it. Expendables 4.
Expendables. Expendables, I believe, is the correct pronunciation. Only true fans understand. Expendables. Yeah, I saw saw them talking about it on Metals Forge. It sounded terrible.
Yeah. Again, this seems to happen a lot. Stallone had a falling out with the people behind it. He was barely in the movie, just shows up, dips out. I don't know why that happens a lot. I don't know. I guess maybe
personalities
Stallone
bump up against each other.
Yeah. But again, I think if he was in charge, it'd probably be a more enjoyable movie. With Stallone in the helm. Whatever they went with, Jason Statham or whatever, I just heard that just fell down from there, I suppose.
I saw Reptile. I don't want to talk about it much because I didn't like it. But
Okay.
it's like a thriller that I like a good detective thriller. It just wasn't a very good one. The twist was pretty lame.
Okay. Normally, I like to watch the mystery things with my brother. My
Yeah,
brother loves
I
them.
like
Yeah.
detective thrillers. I really like a good like there's a murder, we got to find out who did it and
Mhm.
catch them. I like those kind of
Yeah.
movies a lot, and that one just was kind of lame.
Have you seen the Little Things with Denzel?
No, is it called,
I kind
called The Little Things?
The Little Things with Denzel, with Jared Leto.
Oh, that's a wait, no, I haven't seen that. Is it any
Okay.
good?
Hard to say.
Okay.
I I I like the twist in it, from what I remember.
Doesn't have great reviews, but
But
maybe I'll check it out sometime.
I don't know. But I'm sure if I thought about it, I'd spot some flaws. So definitely, it's not like a glowing recommendation that I'm giving you here. But I don't know. I kind of like the ending and kind of like the twists, but take that with a pinch of salt.
All right, I think it's time to start rapid firing through these last
Yep.
ones here.
What are we on? We're on September. Okay. The Creator. I've seen that.
Oh yeah,
Kind of a disappointment.
I really didn't like that movie, and the more I thought about it, the more I dislike it. It might be in the bottom 3 for me of the year.
Oof.
Actually, I
That
think
bad.
it's the kind of movie that the more you think about it, the more insulting it gets, the stupider it gets.
Mhm.
I
It's
I
just-
talked about it with Fringy on the channel. We
Ooh.
go all into all that is there to be unlikable about it, but I think one of the things that I found most off-putting was a sort of rather anti-human, or at least anti-Western sentiment
Yes.
that I didn't like. Yeah, very
Ah.
very off-putting. Didn't like it.
Yes, I completely agree with that. I always find that the case with sci-fi movies, like robots good, people bad. Like, oh, gee, thanks.
Yeah, this movie was definitely one of those. It was
Yeah.
not fun.
Saw X. I saw the EFAT movies of it. Seems good.
Well, I wouldn't call it good, but I would say it was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Most Saw movies are awful, and this was one of the better ones. So that doesn't make it
surprise.
good, but it is better than a lot of Saw movies. We'll give it that. It was better than it had any right to be. We'll say that. Let's see, what do we got here? Oh, you're
The
scrolling
Killer
so
as
fast.
well that we talked about.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
I like Five Nights at Freddy's as a franchise. I had some enjoyment out of the movie, but it's a work of art. No, not particularly.
I wouldn't call it good, but it was better than I thought it would be. It's a lot like Saw X in that regard for me. It's like, okay, well, I expected the absolute worst, and I got something slightly better than that. Both movies where it's like, okay, it wasn't good, but there was some character stuff. Like they were trying. They were trying to do something.
You know how a British audience in the cinema is kind of very silent, very stoic. They just want. This one was just like being like an American theater. Like people
kids
were
in the
cheering
theater,
sometimes, like clapping, like a really lively audience. I was really surprised by that. It's definitely a movie made for the fans, and yeah, I like it.
I'm
great.
glad they're having fun with it. Good for
Yeah,
them.
I was kind of liking that they liked it so much. Dream Scenario. Did you see that?
I did see it. I was pretty disappointed because I thought it had a lot of potential. Did you see it?
I've heard of it. I've seen the trailer.
Okay.
Trailer looks fantastic.
Well,
But
here's
I
the
then heard about your review. I was just like, oh,
well, here's the short version because I thought it could have been great, like actually great, and it kind of lost the thread. It lost the plot in the second half. Everything it was setting up in the first half, I'm like, okay, I'm in it. This is cool. This is a fun premise. It's got a fun sort of magical premise to it. Nick Cage is actually great in the movie. He's very good. But I thought the writer kind of left a lot of plot threads dangling. He took it in a direction that didn't match what he set up in the first half, and wasted a lot of potential. That's kind of the most frustrating thing, is that like this could have been great if you knew what you had in the first half and you finished that story. This could have been great, but instead it was just like it had some good moments, but I'll never see it again, kind of thing.
yep. The Marbles.
Didn't see it. Looked terrible.
We will not speak of it. I watched the Hunger Games Songs of Ballads. Okay, whatever. Didn't really need it. Whatever. I like the books, and I like somewhat like movies as well, even though the first one did not need to be in 2 parts. Probably we'll forget about it in a couple of weeks' time. Next Goal Wins by Taika Waititi. Might give that a watch.
I
but-
thought, I saw trailers and I'm like, you know what, this looks like it could be fun, but then the reviews were pretty not good. And I was like, oh really? I don't know anyone personally who's seen it, like any friends or anything, but the reviews were not good. So I was like, oh, that's a shame because it looked like it could be fun. But,
yeah.
I don't know.
I guess
Kind of
it's
put
just
me
a
off
way.
seeing it, but maybe I'll give it a shot.
I have heard some wild things about this one.
Yeah,
Saltburn.
I didn't like it.
Oh, you've seen it? Oh,
I have. I saw it recently, and I thought it was. Well, you know what? I'll just read verbatim the tweet I wrote about it because it succinctly summarizes how I felt about it. Where is it? Saltburn is a movie for immature, pretentious perverts and no one else. That's the gist.
Perfect.
I thought it's shot really well. I think Barry Keoghan's a good actor, but it's just so juvenile and like it's not good. It's not good. You can see better. You can see better explorations of anything that it attempted to be about in other movies.
Okay, Napoleon. Now, I've got 2 brothers, one younger, one older. My older is like a huge, really is invested in the Napoleon story and history overall, and he was kind of disappointed with this film.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
All these events that could have made a TV show, and they just crammed it in a movie, and it's kind of like this attitude of deconstructing a character, demeaning him, that kind of thing. It's all over this movie. This kind of pessimistic, dour and sad approach to certain characters, like completely the opposite to something like, I know it's an absurd comparison, but like Mario, with him being just heroic.
I know what you mean, and I definitely think obviously there are parts of the Napoleon story that are on the darker, sadder, more you could be critical of him, right? But it seems like the movie is nothing but sort of dour, sort of like critical, miserable. I will say it looks ugly. The movie looks miserably ugly. It's the way it's tinted and shot. There's just no color, no vibrancy, no life to it. It looks like the mood it wants you to feel the whole time, and that was kind of off-putting to me. I didn't feel like seeing it because of that.
Yep.
If you scroll up briefly, if you scroll up,
Wish.
going. No, not Wish. Okay, May December is the movie right after Saltburn.
Yeah.
I like this movie.
With Natalie Portman. Okay.
It's a movie essentially about Natalie Portman is an actress who is interviewing Julianne Moore in order to play her in a movie. Julianne Moore's character is someone who was involved in a older female teacher having sex with a younger male student scandal. And years have passed and they're actually married. Once she got out of jail for the statutory rape and everything, they married and had kids together. And so it's a movie about the toll that sort of horrible situation takes on the people involved. And it's it's not a flattering movie. It's very
so it doesn't approve of their actions.
No,
Okay.
no, definitely not. Natalie Portman's character is kind of a bad person, but like the real heart and soul of the movie is the guy he's played by, I think his name is Charles Melton. He plays the now adult kid who was taken advantage of by his teacher, and it's sort of about like whether he still wants to be in a relationship with her, whether he's just staying together for the kids they have, and how he's like been sort of traumatized by the whole thing, and like whether like and like being thrust into parenthood at a young age and the scandal surrounding their whole it's actually a really mature and interesting story, and I thought it was really well done.
I'll add that to the list.
It's good.
Okay. Not for a comfortable watch, probably, but yeah, it sounds good from what you're saying.
Yeah.
Maestro. #Nosegate. #unacceptable. Is what I know about this film. Trailers look good. That's it.
Bradley
That's all I know.
Cooper plays Leonard Bernstein. Now, Leonard Bernstein is a really talented composer and conductor and musician. And imagine my shock when it's yet another biopic about a musician that doesn't seem to really care about his music at all and is entirely concerned with his love life and his sexuality. And I don't care. I do not care. Like I'm just sick of that. It might be a good movie for all I know, but I am sick of movies about musicians that don't care about the music. And it's like, well, that's why we all remember him. That's why anyone would care about a movie about him. So like, I don't care if he was gay. Honestly, I mean, there are plenty of good stories about gay characters and blah, 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 and the conflict and all that sort of stuff. But like, Leonard Bernstein was a musician and a really talented one. I care about that. Can we focus on that, please? Anyway.
Silent Night. I've heard about this movie. The trailer seemed cool. You know, I like action flicks. From what I've heard from people I trust, not particularly good. Not particularly memorable. For some reason, other people don't speak. Because in the trailer, the main character kind of had his vocal cords injured and he can't speak. For some reason, other characters don't speak, and it's just like, but why? He's not really deaf as well, is he?
Weird.
Yeah, weird.
Okay.
So it's just like a Punisher whose kid is killed and he can't speak, and it's called Silent Night because he doesn't say a word. Originally, when I read the premise of this movie was like, oh, it's going to be a film without dialogue. I'm like, that sounds interesting. I mean, I remember in film school, we attempted to do some films about dialogue, and it's really tricky, but it's really interesting because you get to think about scenes like, okay, what's the true essence of this? How do we get it across the screen and whatnot? And, kind of nail down the point of the scene, of each scene. And I thought it'd be an interesting watch to see this film, how it kind of gets it across. And from what I heard, it's disappointing. So, well. Let's see here. Wonka, you saw that, and
Yeah, I didn't like it at all.
Wish you haven't seen it. Aquaman,
One of the ones you passed was Poor Things. I don't want to.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about that already, didn't we?
Yeah.
Was that before the stream, or did we talk about that on stream? I can't remember anymore.
I can't
Anyway,
remember.
Poor Things is a movie. I'll
it's
talk
a
about it on stream at some point in more depth. I have mixed feelings on it.
No, yeah, check out Capital Opinion. I've got your social media links down below.
Oh, neat. Thanks. Did you see Rebel Moon? I didn't see it.
You know what? Maybe I'll see the director's cut.
Yeah, I'm impressed at his able to consistently churn out stinkers. I really don't like Zack Snyder's movies at all. So Rebel Moon seems like a miserable watch, but maybe I'll watch it just out of morbid curiosity at some point.
Okay, and I think with Ferrari, I think I spoke about Ferrari. Yeah,
you did. Yep.
As the final film, I guess. Where's Rebel Moon? Oh, there is Rebel Moon. I missed it. Did you watch Chicken Run, by the way, the sequel to it?
No, God, no.
I watched the original. I liked it. I liked that film.
Oh, are you asking if I've seen the original or the new one?
Yeah, the original.
I have seen the original a long time ago.
What the hell is the point in making a sequel?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
Will do.
I suppose that reaches the end of this list. There are only really two movies that we didn't discuss that I saw this year that I want to mention because they're my two favorite movies of the year. One is The Holdovers. Have you heard of this?
Yes, with
Paul Giamatti.
Yes, it's like an Italian sounding name. Yeah.
The Holdovers is really, really good. It's my favorite movie of the year. It's a really good character drama. I won't say too much about it because I would basically recommend it to everyone. And so anyone who hasn't seen it should go check it out. Easily my favorite movie of the year. Really liked it. Second favorite movie of the year is a movie called Anatomy of a Fall. Now that one is not one that I'd recommend to literally everyone because it's a bit dry. It's a courtroom drama. It's a French movie about a German woman living in France whose husband commits suicide, and then but the circumstances around his suicide are kind of suspicious. So she is accused of murdering. Yeah.
I've seen the trailer for this somewhere. I can't remember.
And I
where.
thought it was just really solid, just a really good courtroom drama. Now it's very dry. There's like no score in the whole movie. So
Okay.
there's it's all like, if there is music, it's all practical, like it's happening in the story. It's diegetic.
Oh.
It is like I could see someone saying it's boring, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't begrudge them totally, but I do think it's really good.
What was the title? I do
It's
like
called
courtrooms.
Anatomy of a Fall.
Okay, because he fell.
Yeah, you got it. You're getting it. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought the character stuff was just really solid. My two favorite movies of the year, actually, no, probably my three favorite movies of the year, if I had to say right now, are probably The Holdovers, Anatomy of a Fall, and Iron Claw. And all three of them are kind of, I don't know if indie's the right word, but they're kind of lower budget, really strong character dramas. And that's the gist of what they are. Just really good character work, really good writing. I really enjoyed all three of those. So those are probably three big recommendations I would make. If you haven't seen them in the year, you should go check them out.
I don't know. I guess we talked about it all this stream.
Yeah, I just mentioned those because they weren't on this list, or we breezed past them for whatever reason.
I guess for me, my favorite movies of the year would be like definitely Godzilla -1 up there, just because it took me by surprise. Oh, human stories in a Godzilla movie. That's a surprise.
No way.
I can't think of any. I guess it's recency bias because it's the recent movie that I've seen that I actually liked. Maybe no idea. I did like a lot of Oppenheimer, I suppose, even though it dragged on a bit. I was really looking forward to that movie.
Oh, we didn't talk about Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't know if we breezed past that one.
We
But that was a
probably
big
breezed past
movie
that.
that came out this year. Did you see that?
I've heard of it, haven't watched it.
Okay, I would say it's good, but there's some things that hold it back from being great. There's some things I didn't like about it. A lot of people really like it, and I understand it, but I have some problems with it. I had a long chat with Theo and John Graham, John CJG, on our channel about it. So you can go check that out if you want. We kind of talk about all the good and the not quite as good in that film. But that's probably going to win Best Picture if I had to bet right now.
Really?
That's probably going to win the most awards. Yeah. Because Martin Scorsese has been snubbed at the Oscars a lot is the general consensus. So they'll
just
feel
like,
bad.
Go away now. Just get this Oscar.
Yeah, they'll feel like, oh, we probably should have given him one sooner. So it's about time. So there's that. It is a pretty good movie. Like, it's got a lot of really good performances in it. It's very well made. It's also about Native Americans. So, I mean, they'll definitely feel like it's important. It's an important story. So I imagine it'll probably win quite a few awards this year. It's definitely not my favorite of the year, but it's good.
Okay, we've been going on for nearly 3 hours. So sorry to keep you this long, but
No, that's fine. That's fine.
no, it's been fun discussing movies of the year. No, again, you're always welcome back. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no
Would
problem.
you like to plug in your stuff? I've got all your social media links below, so there's Capital Opinions Twitter and YouTube as well in the description below.
Yeah, so I'm still working on proper edited videos of the Devs show. It's a show that I really hated and had a lot to say about it. So we've been reviewing that very, very slowly, but those are going to keep coming out. In the meantime, we're doing more live streams. I'm trying to aim to get to the point where we're streaming once a week for consistency and that sort of thing. If I had to sum up what our streams are like, we're sort of aiming to be like EFAP, but for the more niche movies that they might not cover, right? So the indie stuff, the sort of art house stuff, or, foreign films, whatever it may be, that not the big tentpole stuff necessarily, unless we're really, really motivated to talk about. So you can we have streams on, we did one on Killers of the Flower Moon. We did Barbie and Oppenheimer. That was obviously pretty mainstream, but they didn't cover it, so we did. And sort of fill that niche, right? If you like EFAP and you watch their stuff and you like, oh, I wonder what they think of this movie they didn't cover. Maybe we covered it. You should come check us out. That's the gist. We get some of them as guests every now and then, trying to trying to do more streams. So that's sort of what we do. Come check it out.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's fun time.
Oh no, definitely. As for me, check out my Spider-Man 2's story is terrible. I really hated that game. Specifically bought the PS5 for it, and as soon as I played it and finished it, I was just disappointed. All that waiting. It's probably one of the best edited kind of analysis video that I've done in a while. Now that I've seen it and kind of wish I rewrote some parts, wish I redrafted some parts, but I suppose the main point across gets. The main point is the story is crap and a disappointment, and it's a huge step down from the first game. And again, I wasn't a fan of the first one, so yeah, if you didn't like that game as much as me, check that video out. Also, there's a Godzilla -1 review somewhere on this channel as well, just my brief thoughts on it. And do check out some of my out of theatre reviews as well. I know people have mixed thoughts about YouTube Shorts, but I don't know. I suppose I just use them just to upload to YouTube because it's just a mini review for movies that I review out of the theatre. Anyway, thank you everyone so much for watching, and I will see you all guys next Sunday. Bye.
Toodaloo. Thanks for having me. See you next time.